So welcome to the delayed June 16th, 2020 Norfolk Planning Board meeting. As a preliminary matter, this is Walter Byron, the Planning Board Chairman, and permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So we've got John, Chad, Gary, and Peter's here, and we're missing Erin, correct?
Correct, yep.
Right.
Okay. And is Betsy still with us? Yes, there's Betsy, and Rich is with us as well, our staff, support staff. So good evening. This open meeting of the Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Planning Board is convened by Zoom eventually. It's posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note the meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and that take care that not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be and probably will be captured by the recording. All right, with that, I think we can begin the agenda. And the first item on the agenda this evening is a request by the applicant for 6 Hill Street for a continuance to the month of August. I have considered that, and I'd like to put an idea in front of the board that grants the continuance for 1 month to the month of July. This application has been going on for just about a year, and we want to wrap this thing up as soon as we can in a reasonable fashion. I think one month extension is a reasonable amount of time. And ideally, we would begin the discussion of that this evening. However, the applicant is not here. So I'd like to hear from other board members as to the viability of a 1 month extension rather than the requested 2 months. Mr. Wetterland.
I think that's plenty of time for him. But Walter, could I ask Rich a question based on our conversation on the zoning from town council?
Yeah, let me get through this, John. Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Peck.
I think that a month is more than appropriate. If I recall correctly, this has been continued for the past couple months as well. So yeah, let's get this resolved.
Agreed. Mr. Searle.
Yes, at the time he requested a continuance, did he offer any reasoning as to, with each continuance, was he saying it is due to this reason?
Yes, the answer to that question is he did. And let's see, the reason in his letter says, as the reason for this request, Hunter states that given the current state of emergency, which is not forecasted to be lifted until approximately the first week in May, Hunter cannot adequately prepare for a board meeting to that time. So he's laying it at the feet of the COVID virus.
And he hasn't responded and said what, so it sounds like he wanted to meet the board in person. And so COVID continues to stop our meetings in person. And it sounds like each month that happens, he's asking for a continuation. And no other reasoning other than the fact that he's just asking to meet with us in person.
That's
nothing else offered in the letter.
That's all that's in the letter. Yep.
Okay. I'm fine trying, because I don't see an end to COVID either in July or August. So I think we will be meeting with him in a Zoom meeting. So yes, I would agree. Let's do it in July.
All right, then Chair will entertain a motion to grant an extension for this application.
You do have, there's a question from the audience, if you want to.
I didn't see that. I'm sorry, Rich, who was raising a hand?
Mr. Quiglieri.
Mr. Quaglieri, go ahead.
Thank you, Walter. I'd like to suggest that you deny the application and have the applicant refile. Town council has ruled that this is a non-conforming lot. And as I sent you guys pictures and a statement that he has drastically expanded the non-conforming lot. He's running a business without an F11. He's storing more than 1,000 square feet without a ZBA special permit. He's running a contractor's yard without a ZBA special permit. So the site plan application is erroneous and filed under false pretext, I believe. And he has not received any planning board approvals, but he's running a business without any ZBA approvals or planning board approvals. How can we continue? How can you continue to keep this meeting going? It's a farce, this application.
Well, I understand your point, Mr. Quaglieri. The fact that he's apparently running a business in a disapproved situation will be addressed by the zoning enforcement officer. And as far as ending the application and denying the application, we'll deal with that when he's in the room next meeting.
Yeah,
And if he doesn't show up, we'll deal with it then.
yeah,
Okay, thank you for your time. That's all my point.
that's good.
Okay.
That's good, yeah.
All right, Chair will entertain a motion for a 1-month extension.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor. We're going to do this tonight. All our votes will be by roll call. So, Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. We grant him a 1-month extension. And Mr. McCarthy will send him a letter to that effect tomorrow, requesting his presence at next meeting. And as I said to Mr. Quaglieri, who brought to our attention the fact that he's running a business there without approval by the planning board or the ZBA, that will be addressed by the zoning enforcement officer.
I did talk to Bob Bullard today about the storage in the yard improperly. He's going to be sending out a letter tomorrow, and I asked him why he's even in the building, and Bob is going by, his talk to me was that since he has a legal F11 form, he's able to operate in the building, but not storage outside, which requires a special permit. So that's his stance on the matter right now. I thought that when he filed for planning board approval, he forewent the F11 that was completed previously. So that's a little bit confusing. And my other questions we talked about on the same matter, I asked about a month and a half ago in writing. I want to know from town council whether you can create a new lot on a lot that doesn't conform with zoning, being a 4-family required. I'm still waiting for that answer, Rich. And I guess Walter said you talked to town council and they said something like they would answer that when the plan was filed. And I just,
Yeah, they huh?
was that their answer?
They weren't going to hypothesize on a, they would respond to what was presented before them.
This isn't a hypothesize, but nothing personal. This is a question from council. Can you create a new lot that doesn't conform with zoning? There's nothing hypothetical about that. That's something that comes up, and that's our matter here. And I mean, it's kind of important before we decide whether this is 1 lot or 2 lot. We have to have an answer from them. Are they waiting for a plan to be filed and recorded and then give us a ruling? It just sets us back.
No, I'm sorry. So that plan the previous A&R plan that was before the board that showed the undersized lot, the council was of the opinion you cannot, well, you could theoretically create a non-conforming lot. It met an A&R, but then you create a non-conformity.
So what is that?
It's not,
It's the use that's non-conformity. Even if he had a 30,000 square foot lot in an illegal Form A, once he files that at the registry, that's a legal lot, but his use is no longer legal, and the building inspector would be fining him $300 a day for creating an illegal use.
Well, that was my question, Al. And the fact of the matter is, we need an answer on that before we go further, before this thing is subdivided and recorded. Because if that's one lot, then other issues in the site plan come into play then.
he's not treating it as one lot though. He filed an A&R plan for 2 lots.
Exactly. We have to know whether that A&R plan is legal because it's creating a non-conformity for use. Again, I thought it was sort of a simple question. I asked this months ago, and I don't know why they haven't given us an answer. I get to the point that where this is so convoluted, and Ted Whalen, Ted isn't giving us our answer. Obviously, he's the client's rep. I'm to the point I want to sub this out to a zoning specialist and get some answers and get a legal opinion.
Well, John,
On this whole matter.
Yeah, right now the A&R plan that they showed us is non-conforming in two ways that Al pointed out. One is
Right.
it's not 30,000 square feet and it doesn't meet the use requirement. So we ought to get the answer from town council, and if we don't get the answer from town council, we ought to follow up on Mr. Weddleton's suggestion.
but one of the most important things is the Form A plan renders the site plan application non-existent. He filed a different site plan application than the Form A. How can you hear a site plan application on something completely different than you just approved on a Form A? That's why I was saying I've been saying numerous times, he needs to withdraw this, find out exactly what he has, and resubmit it in a proper application.
The problem is, Al, the way it stands now, as far as the zoning officer goes, he has given him the right to operate that business in there. And as far as the zoning officer is concerned, the issue is outside storage, which he needs a special permit for. And that's why he's got activities going on in the building now.
Well, I take exception to that, John, because I filed an appeal of that F11 at the ZBA, and they told me to withdraw it because the F11 was rescinded.
I know. I'm just telling you what he told me, that's all.
So I mean, that's a crock.
Because I did not think he could be operating in there, or he's going through a site plan approval. I didn't think he should be doing anything in there until he gets site plan. But it's almost like they're using this as a hybrid. I've got the F11 approved and I'll go for site plan, and he's doing both. Everything is just all disconjoined here between forming a non-conforming lot with a non-conforming use, and the point of having an increase on a pre-existing condition. That's also another issue there. So there's a whole bunch of things before we even get into the nitty-gritty, along with filing under a commercial business.
So, sorry I had to mute everybody, but so this application's been continued to the next month. We really shouldn't have deliberative discussions about this project right now. The applicant's not here. I think
Good idea.
the discussion needs to cease, and then we can have them in at the next month's meeting and then have a discussion about it. But it's just for proper representation so he can respond to it.
All right, let's move on. I agree, Rich. Let's move on. Next item of Business is 7 Phillips Way, 19 Shire Drive, formerly 7 Phillips Way, now 19 Shire Drive. Site plan special permit, stormwater management, and earth removal permit continued from last meeting on May 12th. We have received a letter from Beta with a few open items, and this afternoon we received a response from Jim Susi, who's looking at us here on the screen. Rich, you want to say anything about this? Wait a minute, I got a cat who just arrived.
Oh boy, there you go. There's the cats. Yeah, I think, well, I know that Jim there was about 7 or 8 outstanding items that Beta had identified in the last peer review. There was a letter, some response from Jim earlier today. I think the goal for tonight is just to update the board where it is relative to the review process. Jim can explain orally how he's addressing the comments raised by Beta, and then hopefully those will be satisfactory responses. And then also any comments from the planning board. If everything seems to be in order, then it can be continued to next month. So the changes that are needed can be updated on the plan set with the documents, and then the board would be in a better position to approve it at the July meeting. So as the discussion unfolds, we'll see if it seems like things are headed in a satisfactory direction. The board could consider, like I said, updated plans next month. Get the documents associated with what needs to be provided, address planning board comments, and then close it and issue a decision. The special permit request that's before the Board of Appeals for the outdoor storage of more than 3 commercial vehicles was continued to July. Can't recall exact date. Jim, what was you remember what the date was?
I want to say the 6th, maybe. It was early in July.
Yeah, maybe the 6th. But one of the issues that came up, and we'll discuss tonight, was the classification of the use. And so you want me to touch on that briefly, Walter, before we get going, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. So last Friday afternoon, I had a call between Bob Bullock, Christopher Weeder, and Walter Byron and myself discussing the compare and contrast between contractors' headquarters versus commercial service. And based on the description of what this use is being proposed at on 19 Shire, the consensus was that it fell within contractors' headquarters in the off-highway. One of the things that came out of that meeting is that we'll need to work for future changes for the fall relative to the definitions for both, because as we see, there are contractors in town who do use equipment associated with earth removal, but they're not primarily involved in earth removal operations. So we need to be able to kind of provide a fit for them within the town of Norfolk. And also if there are uses that do use heavy equipment, where they might be. So the suggestion was that if you use heavy equipment in earth removal operations, that would be something that would be allowed within the off-highway district, but not in the on-highway district. So but for the moment, what was landed upon was classifying this as a contractor's headquarters.
All right, thank you, Rich. As I read Jim's response to the Beta letter, it looks to me as though in the intervening time between now and the next meeting, just about everything can get squared away, and Beta would, once they receive that information from Jim, would provide another letter that closes it out and said all the issues are resolved. There is one item I'd like to bring up to the board's attention and to Jim's attention. It's on the second page of Beta's letter. It's a request for waivers, and it's W8. It says the applicant seeks a waiver not to install a sidewalk. There are no sidewalks in the area. That's true. However, the planning board has taken the position recently that in lieu of a sidewalk, we would anticipate a contribution to the town's sidewalk fund such that we can apply those dollars to creating sidewalks that are needed elsewhere in the town. And so we would ask Jim and Rich to get together and look at that and come up with the appropriate amount that would be requested to be required, I should say, to be donated to the town's sidewalk fund. Okay, Jim, any comments from you, sir?
Basically, as far as that matter goes, I don't believe it'll be a big issue. I have discussed it with Mr. Brolin in the past. So again, I'll get together with Rich and we'll come up with a dollar value, square foot, whatever.
Yep.
And then that can be incorporated into the decision.
Right, okay, all right.
Basically, as far as the site itself goes, originally we had a 90 by 80 building with parking between the building and the street, and some parking in the rear. In going through things with the zoning board, what we've done is change the configuration of the building to a 70 by 100. So we've given up a couple hundred square feet of building area and shifted the building towards Shire Drive so that all of the vehicle storage parking is to the rear of the building. And then we've got parking for the building itself on the west side of the building and some spaces around the back. So that seemed to be one of the biggest hangups we had with the zoning board. And I think we've gotten through that part of the discussion with them. Like I said, the outstanding issue the last time I met with the zoning board was the use, and hopefully we've taken care of that tonight. Another thing we've done, all of the east side was going to be just a turf grass with some stockpiles. And through comments, what we've done is off the end of the recycled asphalt coming up Shire Drive, we've gone to an 18-foot wide crushed stone roadway that comes in off and then goes up and accesses each of the stockpiles up in the back, so that instead of driving over the grass to get to where they have to go, it'll be done on a crushed stone roadway, which should be more stable and shouldn't tear things up as much. As far as the drainage system goes, to the north side, we've taken out the sediment forebay and the swale that was there, and we've changed that to a rain garden. And then just to the south of that, we have a 33-foot wide vegetated buffer strip to try to catch any fines or whatever that may be coming off the hill towards the rain garden. The infiltration pond hasn't changed, and we did enlarge the roof recharge area slightly with the reconfiguration of the building and the pavement to handle the runoff that was coming off of that.
Jim, have we seen those revised plans at the planning board?
They were emailed
I could-
to
Good.
Rich and Phil. These were the plans that Phil had just done his letter on.
Okay, I got it, yep. Rich, have you got a copy of those that you've sent out to the board? I don't recall receiving them.
They were sent out to the board. They're in the, they're also in the pack. You have the packet, the PDF packet that was sent to you that
Yeah.
Beth put out. Do you want me to display them? I can display them on the screen. I can,
Well, I mentioned, for example, while you're putting that up there, you mentioned the revising the size of the building.
Yes, we had gone from a 90 by 80 to a 70 by 100.
Yeah, yeah. And repositioning the building too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
To allow for all the vehicles storage to
Yep.
be in the rear of the building and still have access for the fire truck to get around.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, Rich, I don't see it in the packet that you sent out. I
No,
don't see the
I mean,
plans.
plans are on the plan, hold on.
What are you guys looking for?
19 Shire plans, they weren't in the packet.
It was just the,
No, they had
Just the data
gotten,
report.
I had sent the plans before, but Rich, they're in the shared Google Drive.
I can share it. I got it up.
Okay. All right. We'll let Phil share it quick.
Yep. Okay.
So, Phil, where are you? Betsy, can you just give Phil ShareX a host? Let's see where he can, or I can.
I think you have to. I'm not sure that I am the host.
All right, hold on. All right, Phil. Just had to find you.
Oh, what happened? Where'd it go? There it is. Can you see that?
Nope, there you go.
Yep.
Yep.
Here we go.
So this is the plan.
Yes.
So he straightened out the road and put a new access around the stockpiles.
Yeah,
The parking's in the back here.
yep.
Rotated. Here's the buffer, the grass strip, buffer strip. Down gradient of the stockpiles. So I think he's just got a number of paper items to take care of. Paperwork items.
Yep, okay, thank you. Questions from the board on this drawing at all before we take it down? Nope, hearing none, okay, take it down,
No.
thank you.
I think there's, I thought I saw hands up though. Hold on.
I was only going to ask about the other waivers.
Okay. Al has his hand up?
Al Quaglieri,
Yeah.
go ahead, Al.
That was from the last meeting, Walter. Walter,
Yeah, I'm with you, yeah.
Oh, lower your hand?
sorry.
Oh, I'll lower it. That's fine. Never mind. All right, Gary, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was only going to ask about the other waivers if we were going to address those at the next meeting. It seems like some of them will kind of take care of themselves, obviously the sidewalk, but related to impact study, traffic study, cul-de-sac, do we want to do that next meeting or are we going to address that now?
I think it would be worthwhile, at least to, particularly on the impact study and then also the cul-de-sac, to maybe get a sense of the board on those waivers. They want to offer a comment or?
Yeah, well, take the drawing down, would you please?
Oh, all right, sorry. There we go.
Okay. All right, we all have seen the beta letter. It's got on page 2, the 10 requested waivers. Any comments from any of the board members about that list of 10 potential waivers?
So regarding the cul-de-sac, I know that came up at a previous meeting. What's out there is not correct. Is that, I mean, there's just seemed to be there a lingering issue with that cul-de-sac that's out there. Is that going to be removed?
Yeah, as I understand it, it's being removed.
Okay.
No,
Well,
removed by who?
By you?
We're not showing that on our plans. We're leaving that cul-de-sac the way it is, and basically we're having Shire Drive basically be a driveway to the property.
Off the cul-de-sac?
Correct.
Okay, all right, well, that doesn't show in your drawing. I thought it was being removed.
Nope. I mean, it does show the roadway and stuff coming off the cul-de-sac. We had no intention of changing that at all. As far as for the future, you know, it's come up in the future if he ever wanted to split the lot or whatnot. And basically at that time, when we do the A&R plan or, you know, 3-lot subdivision plan, then we will do away with the existing cul-de-sac, make that a straight through road with a cul-de-sac at the end of that.
so
But
for
as far
the,
as the submission goes, there's no intention of doing anything with the existing cul-de-sac.
yeah, so the roadway in Shire, if you remember, just a brief update, it was, the project went in bankruptcy, or no, sorry, not bankruptcy, it was foreclosed on. So the responsibility now falls on the town to complete the subdivision road. That little straight end in front of, which is now Shire Way, which used to be Phillips, was an extension to the property line for a future extension of the roadway. This applicant bought the property at the end, which it terminates into. So the town, when we go, which we're going to have to go forward and complete the subdivision, we're going to have to abandon a portion of it, most likely. That's one option. We also would have to potentially take property from the adjacent neighbor because there's a temporary easement for that cul-de-sac on that lot, which is right next door. And if we don't take it, then it would be a non-conforming lot, because right now that temporary easement for the cul-de-sac is right up against, I mean, it's close to the building where it's set back. So they've done what they can. The shift burden is onto the town. The challenge here is that we don't have anywhere near the amount of money to finish this. So we're going to have to work with all the property owners within the park to figure this out,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So that's what I was trying to get at is, so the issue is that the cul-de-sac that's there was my understanding was a temporary cul-de-sac, and then there's some non-conforming issues with that needs to be addressed, but that's the town's responsibility.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Rich, anything else that you want to discuss on 7 Phillips, 19 Shire tonight?
The only, I guess the only thing is just to get a sense of the board on the thought of this falling as a contractor's headquarters. Hopefully,
It seems to fit the definition.
okay. Is there at least 3 other members of the board that agree?
I agree.
I would agree.
Okay. That's 2.
I would agree.
John?
I agree.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Thanks, Dory. I just want to, all right. So no, then,
All right, thank you, Rich. All right, moving on the agenda, the next item is
Well, you need to-
75.
just got to continue it. You're going to continue it too.
All right. You're right. Okay, so we need a motion to continue this until our July
14th
14th meeting
at 7:15.
at 7:15.
Just as a point of clarification, did you assign a time for 6 Hill Street to the 14th meeting? I didn't catch it, but you did, right, with that motion before?
I don't believe we did, but we can put it down at 7 PM.
Okay. All right.
Should probably do a formal vote.
Yeah, if you don't mind the vote.
Well, let's finish this one and then we can go back and
Okay.
Yeah, agreed,
Yeah.
Chad.
Okay.
So we need a motion to continue the special site plan, special permit, stormwater management, earth removal permit, public hearings on 19 Shire Drive until July 14th at 7:15 PM.
so moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye. Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, now, what do we need to do administratively to clear up our previous vote, Rich?
Just to assign a time for it, with the vote, the date and time.
All right, so we already agreed to extend it to July 14th at 7 PM. Do we have a motion to that effect, to amend the original motion to include the time of 7 PM?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. All right, now we get to the next item on the agenda, which is 75 Cleveland Street, estate lot special permit and A&R plan.
Do I need to read that notice in?
I believe you do.
Yes, you do.
Yes,
Okay.
you do. Yep.
Sure. Notice is hereby given that in accordance with Mass General Law, Section 40A, and the Norfolk zoning bylaws, E2H, that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, June 16th, 2020, at 7:15 PM at the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass, regarding a special permit application for property located at 75 Cleveland Street in Norfolk, Mass, 02056. The applicants, John and Nancy Nolan, are requesting a special permit for an estate lot. The property is located in the R3 zoning district, reference Assessors Map 16, Block 34, Lot 141-1, showing a proposed 590,210 square foot parcel. The plan and application are available for public inspection on the Town of Norfolk website, www.norfolk.mass.us.
Thank you, Gary. Rich, you want to put up the drawing and then lead the discussion here?
You do. Something just happened, so I gotta try to figure out. Boy, this is a great night. Oh, boy.
You were heading in the right direction because I saw it.
Yeah, and now. All right, just. I lost my,
If you give me, if you make me the host, I can do it, Rich.
all right, yeah, I'm gonna make you host because I lost my connection. Okay. All right, I'll try to get mine back up when
Okay.
the screen shares.
For it.
Rich, I have lost my screen here. I'm not sure what's going on.
You lost your.
We see you.
Yeah, I'm still, I can see myself. I can see all of you on a column over to the right, but I've lost the main screen.
Betsy, you able to call up yet or not? No?
Hold on, I'm trying to get my Google, my shared drive here, Reg, sorry.
Mm.
Do I need to sign out and sign back in, maybe?
So we hear you, but you can't see anything, huh? Is that what you said?
Well, I can see all of you, but I can't see the main screen where you're going to put the drawing, for example, or
Betsy's still trying to share it, I think.
Yeah, I am.
So I think once she gets it officially shared, it should fill in, Walter.
cross my fingers, Chad. Hope.
I'm trying so.
Alright. Well, I'm not having any success, so.
All right.
You
How about
go.
that? You see
There you
it?
go.
All right. All right.
Now I lost everybody.
All right. So I was able to get back in there. So,
Apparently I'm still on. You can hear me, but I can't see anybody.
You don't-
See if you can shrink the screen he has up and maybe you're behind it.
I've cleared my desktop of all screens except I'm just looking at the desktop at the moment.
you don't see the plan then, huh?
No,
Nothing iconized at the bottom of in the toolbar at the bottom?
no, I know what you're referring to, like the microphone and the video.
Yeah.
No, that whole screen has disappeared.
Do you want to try to sign off and sign back in?
Yeah, except I don't know how. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. I got it.
Cool.
I went in through Zoom. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Rich, you want to talk to us about this drawing, please?
Sure. Yep. Just pull it down a little bit. So if you recall, the Nolans had this property was for sale. It was a chapter 61D, I think, it was forestry. So this came to the town under right of first refusal to the chapter program through the state. It was circulated through different departments, and the town decided that they weren't going to exercise the right of first refusal. So the Nolans have before you a plan for an estate lot and then one A&R street lot. What their objective is to build their house to the rear of the 13-acre estate lot, and then their daughter, I think, right, if I have it right, is going to be building a house on the 5-acre lot out front. So the discussion was that what they want to do, they've applied for a demolition permit. As I understand, the Historic Commission is okay with the demolition. They're not going to hold up the demolition. What they would like to do is build a house in the rear while they live in a farmhouse, and then demolish the farmhouse when they're ready to occupy the house to the rear.
In that front lot.
In the front, right. So once this gets demoed, they'll be moving into their house to the rear, And then their daughter be able to build a house on the front lot. So the discussion was that if the planning board is so the lot meets all the dimensional requirements for an estate lot as well as the street lot, the Form A lot. That's really the only kind of question, if you will, is about the sequencing of that. And the suggestion would be that if the board's amenable to that, that they have to demolish the house within perhaps a month after getting the occupancy permit for the rear lot, at least so long in that time frame, so they could occupy it to get it occupiable to move into it, and then come right back and demo the house out front.
All right,
Beyond that, there's nothing-
just to review, the sequence of events then is they're going to live in the front old farmhouse.
Yep,
Then they're going to build a second house or first new house on the estate lot in the back.
correct.
And then they're going to demolish the old farmhouse and build another house on that front lot.
Yes.
Okay, that's the sequence. All right.
Right. Now the reason why the sequencing and the timing is because if you look, I can zoom in a little bit, but just to show you that if you see the old farmhouse here, 75 Cleveland, it's technically falls within that new estate lot line here. So to remove that nonconformity before they occupy the new house. There is an alternative that I did discuss with them, just to make the planning board aware, would be to just reshape this estate lot so it held the 25-foot setback from both sides of the house. But then it's still an issue because it's on this lot, but it wouldn't create a new non-conformity. So this is this would be quote unquote maybe the lesser of a non-conforming, but it's not occupied, so it seems like this could be accomplished if the board agrees.
Okay, questions from board members?
No, I was surprised that they were living in the house. That's the only thing. I didn't know that was part of the sequence, but I thought the house was in disrepair so much that that's the reason why historical or CPC didn't want the property, but maybe I'm incorrect on that. I'm fine with the sequence of events either way.
Okay. I think it's habitable for a temporary period of time, but
Okay.
Long term.
And once the lot is deemed estate, it can never go back and be subdivided regardless of changes in the future. How does that occur? That's on the deed?
It's on a deed. It's a condition of the permit
Okay.
that's imposed. The other standard conditions that, if you recall, is that it's served by underground utilities.
Yep.
Rich, are they gonna ask for a second curb cut?
Yeah, so there'll be, well, actually, there's driveways already here on this side, isn't it? That's awesome. I think.
Or
Yeah,
are they gonna use the same driveway?
for the rear house, they'll use the, they'll probably use the same curb cut now. The thing so the problem, you can't, the way the zoning bylaws, you have to access your lot through your legal frontage. So you can't, so you do have to create two curb cuts.
How far apart do the driveways have to be? Is there any distance in zoning?
I don't know, that's a good question. So I suppose maybe you could straddle a lot line. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I'm just thinking they can only go so far with the wetland area there to put their driveway in.
Do they
Well,
need
this
two
was-
separate drives? Did
Yes,
they
the
need
one-
two separate drives, Rich? I thought we've seen estate lots with one drive that tees off after it goes into the property.
No, so the estate lot will be here if you follow my cursor, which is well away from the wetlands here. And then once this house is torn down, they could put the driveway to this new house over here and get it out of, away from the wetlands. So there's room, to keep the house and the driveway away from the wetlands.
What's the frontage on the estate lot? Are they actually, so there is a lot 1 and a lot 2, and what's the frontage on the estate lot? Does it,
It's
or it
70
doesn't matter once it becomes a state lot? Is there still a minimum frontage on an estate lot?
There is.
Yeah, there is. So the minimum is 50 feet. This one here, I'll just pull it down a little bit so you can see it's actually
Okay.
75. But I'm sorry, I should put. So you have to maintain 50 feet all the way through. So that's why they've kept this 50 feet here. If you see the line,
Okay,
all the way through.
okay.
The applicants are online if you have any particular questions, by the way. Oh, Chad, Chris, iPhone has a question.
Say something? Rich?
Sure, yep.
So our plan is hopefully to, instead of doing 2 curb cuts, because that's a terrible corner there, we want to do 1 driveway 10 feet wide on our property, 10 feet wide on my daughter's property. So we'll only keep that 1 curb cut. We also want to plan on building both houses simultaneously so that we both can get in as soon as possible.
Okay.
All right. Rich, there's no problem with overlapping the driveway on the 2 lots, is there?
They just will need a second curb cut, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd just be a wider curb cut.
There's a nice stone wall that we want to preserve there.
Yeah, that's
Right, we want to preserve that stone wall and, you know, keep the look of Cleveland Street how it is.
yeah.
Why we want to only do
I
1
don't
driveway.
Yeah, so I don't think there's an issue with that. You literally have to access the lot through your frontage. So if you have 10 feet for that lot and 10 feet for the other, there's not a step back from the driveway to it.
Okay,
Basically, when the house is torn down, we will make that work.
Yeah, because the new driveway is going to go right through the corner of the old house, right?
That's
correct.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
So,
right,
I'm
Rich,
thinking
what,
of the last estate lot we did, we had, did we have the fire chief look at it for the internal roads, and is that important, or is that premature at this time?
Well, so we did, in the report, I did recommend, review through the fire department to make sure there's, that the driveway is adequately built to bring, I'll call it the heaviest vehicle, and have turnaround there. So they'll have to work with the fire department on that as a condition of the, which then, before the endorsement, the plans could be updated to have the specifications for the, so I'm recommending you have that as a condition of approval, that they get signed off from the fire department.
It is still a driveway, but not a road with curbing or anything like that.
Yeah, it's more of an issue of having, the cross section supports the weight load.
Oh, right.
All right, Rich, in terms of process here, is there any reason we shouldn't close out the public hearing tonight and look for the draft of the approval decision, or decision, I should say, for the next meeting?
Just public comments, right?
Yeah, I don't see, if there's no other board questions, I would canvass the public, and if not, then.
Yeah, all right. So any further questions from board members?
None?
Yeah,
Any further comments or questions from the public?
there is, yep. So,
I did have one question.
Who is this?
So Chris Henry, 30 Boardman Street.
Okay,
So my question just related, if we could,
Back to the plan.
we lost the fella.
Oh, he's coming back.
Okay.
Chris, are you there?
Are you there?
sorry, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
So my question is regarding the front lot. With the circle where it looks like it sort of cuts into the wetlands, and it looks as if there's a reason, what is the reasoning why that circle wouldn't be pushed back so that you weren't cutting into that sort of sensitive wetland area right there? Is there a prohibiting factor?
Yeah, it's in the bylaw. It describes where you have to show the circle on the lot. Under, I forget what sections. Hold on a second. It's just so that really is just that's a requirement to make sure of the shape of the lot. You don't have to build within that circle. So.
Okay, so I guess that was my question is like, is the home or the proposed front home that is on the front portion of the lot, is it going to be within that circle, or is it we just had to draw the circle within the lot?
You just have to draw the circle. Yeah, it just needs to, the circle needs to be shown on the lot. So it says that the required circle must fit entirely within the lot, and no lot shall be narrower than the required frontage between the frontage line and the required circle. So it's a layered of the shape requirements we have in the bylaw. So we have the built factor, which is this BF rating here, if you see it, which is 4.07.
It has to touch two boundaries.
It's got to touch.
Tangent to the,
That was my only question is why isn't the circle sort of pushed back to the left as I look at it?
Yeah, it has to touch the required circle.
Okay, all right, thank
the
you.
house was going to be set back a little from that.
Yeah, it's a shape issue for the lot, not that you have to build the house in the circle.
Perfect, thank you. That was the clarification I was looking for. And are the properties sort of linked together forever, or once this subdivision happens, they're viewed as separate other than the common driveway?
They'll be separate.
Thank you, that's all I had.
Anyone else in the public care to ask a question or comment? Well, hearing none, then the chair would, can we take the drawing down now, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the 75 Cleveland Street Estate Lot Special Permit and A&R Plan.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second,
Second.
All right, Mr. Weddleton
aye.
and Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. All right, Rich will work on a draft for a decision, which we will have available at our July meeting.
Correct.
All right, thank you, Rich.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is Norway Farms Open Space Preservation Subdivision Request for Modification of Approved Subdivision Plan and Open Space Preservation Special Permit. All right, who's going to speak to that?
Good evening, Chairman Byron.
I think we do need to read this into the record, though, do we not?
Yes,
Before we
you do.
that?
Yeah.
All right, so Gary, you're up.
But before, I'm sorry, let me interrupt. Before we read the notice, Jennifer has a question. I'm not sure what the question is. Shamus?
Who has a question?
Or Jennifer Shamus, her hands up?
Oh, that's Nancy Nolan. I just have a question as far as,
Oh, okay.
so once it gets signed in the next meeting, does it then have a 20-day appeal period?
Yes. Yeah, the
Okay.
decision be signed at the next meeting. It'll get filed with the town clerk, and then there'll be 20-day appeal period
Okay.
after that.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry.
All right, so back to Norway Farms. Gary, you're on.
Sure. Notice is hereby given that in accordance with Mass General Law, Section 48 and the Norfolk zoning bylaws H2F1, that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, June 16th, 2020, in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law GLC 30A20 relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency regarding a request for modifications of the subdivision and special permit approvals for the Norway Farms open space preservation subdivision in Norfolk, Mass. 02056. This meeting shall be physically closed. I'm going to skip that paragraph. The applicant, Norway Farms Drive LLC of Norfolk, Mass. is requesting modifications of the special permit and condition number 1 of the subdivision approval for the open space development to reduce the intensity regulations of the Norfolk zoning bylaws, section E1B, to allow lot coverage of 7,500 square feet for each lot within the subdivision, which has an area of less than 30,000 square feet. The applicant is also requesting a modification of the approved subdivision plan to modify the sidewalk. The property is located in the R1 zoning district, reference Assessor's Map 8, Block 38, Lot 34. The subject material is available for inspection on the Town of Norfolk website. I can read that. Or call 508-528-7747 to arrange an in-person appointment.
Thank you, Gary. All right, who's here to speak to this request?
Good evening, Chairman Byron. Elizabeth Maitland here on behalf of the applicant, Norway Farms Drive LLC. Also with me this evening is Rick Goudreau, the engineer, and Rob Kane, the owner, is also, I believe, online. You may, first of all, good evening to you all. Hello, Mr. McCarthy and Betsy. Nice to see you again. As you may recall, we broached at the last meeting the need of this subdivision, or the realization in the subdivision that the lots in this Norway Farm subdivision, because it is, of course, an open space subdivision, are small. They range, they're mostly in the 20,000, 21,000 square feet. Only 3 of the lots, including 2 owned by Mr. Kane, his residence, and the barn site, basically comply with the underlying zoning regulation in the district, which is 30,000 square feet. The remainder of the lots are far deficient, but of course exceed the 20,000 allowed under the special permit bylaw in an open space subdivision. We are seeking to modify both the subdivision approval for the subdivision that was approved in February of 18 and an amendment to the special permit that was issued on August 23rd of 17 to allow each of these lots to use the underlying lot intensity regulations regarding coverage of the lots for their maximum build out. We've attached to our materials, for example, a plan of one of the lots that has in fact been built and has in fact been conveyed. Lot 2A, for example, consists of 21,302 square feet. Also attached with our materials is a schedule, which I think we looked at briefly last month as well. That lot, after the build out, it is allowed a maximum of 5,325 square feet. It now has 4,517 square feet of impervious coverage after the build out, which leaves only around 800 square feet for the owner to put in a sidewalk, to put in an outbuilding, to put in a deck. It's really very limited. This has been discovered basically, once the first 2 houses are up, that the limitations of the bylaw restricting the lot coverage to 25% of the lot is really onerous in the circumstances of the special permit open space subdivision lots. And what we're looking for is some relief on all of the lots in the subdivision that do not comply with the underlying zoning district, a minimum of 30,000 square feet. We're asking that the board consider allowing each of those lots to use, instead of the number used, applying the arithmetic of the lots after the build out, but to allow each of those lots to develop to a maximum of 30,000, of what would be allowed in 30,000 square feet, which is 7,500 square feet. That is what's allowed for the minimum size lot in this zoning district. And we feel that the planning board or the designers of the open space bylaw actually anticipated that something like this might be necessary, because there is a specific bylaw, H2F1, that specifically imbues this board with the power to reduce or address the intensity regulations in the underlying bylaw. We believe this is a perfect situation where the board could apply that bylaw and allow the small lots to be developed to the same amount that any other lot in the residential one zoning district would be allowed to develop, which is 7,500 square feet. And I do have, I would like to defer to Rick Goudreau at this time. We have a very large open space, two open space parcels in this subdivision. They equal 513,837 square feet. The smaller lots obviously allow a much larger open space, which is what the open space bylaw, of course, is all about. But what I would like to defer to Mr. Goudreau to explain how taking just a credit from that open space subdivision basically allows that open space subdivision to be so extensive, but still allows the lots to be fully developed. So if I may, I'd like to defer to Mr. Goudreau at this point.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Rick Goudreau with the United Consultants. So we had presented the board with a spreadsheet that basically outlined a breakdown of the actual open space lot areas for 1A through 14, excluding lots 8 and 9, which is... I'm sorry?
I think Al's not muted.
Oh, okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So what I was saying was that we had presented the board with a spreadsheet, and it outlined all of the open space lots, 1A through 14, including lots 8 and 9, which Attorney Maitland had indicated were still owned by Mr. Kane and had the existing house and the barn located on those. Those lots are in excess of 40,000 square feet and are really not subject to this. So what we had done was we looked at what would be necessary from a lot coverage area to get each of these lots up to 7,500 square feet. Okay, and then what we did was we added up we summed up all of those areas and came up with 21,541 square feet. That would be what the applicant is looking for a potential lot coverage to get to the 7,500 square feet, which would be what's allowed under the underlying zoning district for the 14 lots. Now, what we then did was we multiplied that by 4. And the reason for that was, obviously, we were looking for what number we would need to be at 25% of to get to this 21,541 square feet. So I guess looking at it in reverse, we would have to had taken 86,164 square feet from the open space area, and that could have been built back into these lots And then that would have allowed us that 21,541 square feet of lot coverage we're looking for, which would have reduced the open space from the roughly 513,000 square feet that the applicant has put in the open space down to approximately 422 or 24,000 square feet. So there's still 420 plus thousand square feet of open space that will not be impacted in this. So this is just a comparison to show the board how this could have been accomplished in another fashion. We basically could have reduced the open space by 86,000 square feet, built it into these lots, still complied with the bylaw. So what the applicant has done is minimized all the lots and increased the open space of the parcel to over 50% of the entire parcel in an attempt to create additional open space for the benefit of all the residents within the neighborhood in the town. And now what we're looking for is just some relief on the lot coverage to put it more in line with what could have happened if the lots were developed conventionally, or if the lots were in fact kept to the area requirement of the 30,000 square feet, and a reduction was shown in the open space. Thank you.
All right, that's pretty clear. Any questions from the board?
I got one for Rick.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a lot of numbers for late at night, Rick, but question for you.
Yes.
I'm not into the comparison for 30 to 20 because you've got a difference in frontage probably, which means different roadway, but all that to me doesn't matter. My understanding is when you increase the coverage, you cannot still go into the setbacks.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, we're not, go ahead.
So to me, my whole game, without using any of your numbers, as I looked at the bylaw, since you're not going into the setback side or rear any further, you're not really causing any imposition on any of the abutting lots, which means that basically, rather than somebody having some grass, they may have some patio or something. So me personally, I think that's fine without getting into all the numbers, as long as you're not saying that you're going to have your pool 5 feet from the lot line, which you can't have. Fine.
No.
No.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one question for Rick as well. So if the lots were all larger when the development was first established, then the houses and the swimming pools would all be further apart. So let's say the parcels are more congested now, and you're going to cover a larger percentage of each one of them. And I agree with your calculations that you could have negotiated this and still had plenty of open space at the onset. But now we have a number of lots that are closer together. And does that in any way impact the runoff from the development to outside the development? Because you're covering, let's say there's 10 lots side by side, and a larger percentage of them will now be covered. And will that water run outside of the development?
So the stormwater system for the development is twofold. First of all, as the planning board regulations require, we've provided roof recharge for all of the individual houses. Those have been shown as we've developed the site development plans and septic systems for each of the lots to date. They have been installed. And then additionally, there's a stormwater collection system for the roadway and the runoff from the lots. Basically, the surface drainage is such that a majority of it is flowing towards the roadway swale, either from the upland side of the roadway, across the roadway to the swale, which is located on the west, generally on the westerly side of the roadway. And then it is directed towards the sediment forebay and then into a bioretention area for infiltration. So we've provided basically a two-tiered stormwater system that will be able to accommodate this.
And are there calculations that you can revisit based on what was originally designed with a certain amount of coverage and now an expanded amount of coverage on all of the lots?
Yes, we could certainly look at that, sure.
Okay.
If I may, to address Mr. Weddleton's concerns, I mean, I think we're only looking for relief on the lot coverage issue. No setbacks, no other dimensional requirements of the
Right.
of the bylaw.
Absolutely.
I do believe that, you know, what we are proposing to address your concerns, Mr. Weddleton, is in absolute harmony with the neighborhood, with the underlying zoning district. This relief is specifically allowed by the open space bylaw. We're not creating any, these are the criteria, of course, of the special permit. We're not creating any detrimental use or odors or noxious effects that are going to impact in any way abutting properties. It's simply a bit more lot coverage, which is not to say that every lot is going to maximize it. It's unlikely that they will. But we also have a very strong homeowners association that, you know, will govern any type of installations of pools and things of that nature. Obviously, we want to maintain the integrity of the neighborhood. So we don't believe that this will neighborhoods. This neighborhood, I believe it was specifically anticipated by the framers of the open space bylaw.
Elizabeth, I was sold when Rick gave me my answer because
Okay.
of course, what you're doing there, it's
Okay.
not a problem.
I should be quiet when I should be quiet, right?
No, not really. But legally in zoning anyway, a neighbor cannot have a runoff into a butter's property. And that would be a problem if they did something with impervious area increase and there was runoff because of the pitch onto a neighbor's property, because you can't do that. But when you folks go to get, or whoever goes to get their permits for a pool or whatever, the first thing the building inspector does is look for the setback relief. So
okay,
that's fine. And the neighborhood, I was by there last Friday and it looks super.
doesn't it? It's
It
beautiful.
looks great. Yep.
It's beautiful. And the other thing, before I forget, I want to mention, we sort of had to do a double prong approach to this because we have the special permit and we have a subdivision approval. So we had to file two separate applications after much agonizing over it. I have filed a request to waive one of the filing fees since it's the exact same thing in one public hearing. There's not any outside consultant work required. So would we respectfully ask that the board consider waiving the second application fee. And then we have a second prong to the modification on the subdivision, and that's the sidewalk. So I don't know if you want to address this one first and then move to the sidewalk, however you prefer to deal with it.
Yeah, let's stick with this one and clean this one up first. All right, any further questions from board members?
Could I just add something, Walter, quickly?
Sure, please.
I'm Rob Kane, the applicant and the owner of Norway Farms. Gary, you had asked about the runoff
Yes.
onto other properties. If it was outside the subdivision, the answer to that is no, because our property is located, the topography is like a bowl.
Okay.
And then the other is in our homeowners association bylaws, because we do have the open road drainage. Everything that's that Rick had designed for grades between the houses and contours to get the water from the backyards on the upland side of the road across the road and into that drainage swale. All that grading has to be done very precisely when we're doing the finished lawns and stuff. And in the association bylaws, if somebody was to undertake a project like putting a deck in or patios or whatever, that has to be presented to the homeowners association for approval to make sure that they aren't disturbing the natural flow of water on the property. So, and then Rick had also, and this got me by surprise, so the roof recharge that we're required to do, so it's gutters and then everything goes into sizable dry wells. So we don't get any credit for the impervious area for that. And if you do a deck, even though there's, cracks between the boards, that also counts as impervious area. So, and the bylaws are the bylaws, but they're pretty, onerous too, whatever the word would be. But there's a lot of extra water that's being recharged, as well as the drainage swales going down the road. There's check dams going down those for water recharge as it goes to the bioretention. But anyways, enough said.
I appreciate the response. I did not recall the topography in my mind, and it was more for water exiting the site. There was a state requirement.
Yep. No, not a drop goes off site.
Okay.
Impossible, actually. Okay.
All right, any questions from the public?
Walter, Chris Henry, I think, has a question.
So Chris Henry, 30 Boardman Street. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First of all, I want to say Mr. Kane and Rick have done a really nice job of designing a really well-designed project. So with that being said, there were some give and take that happened with that process. My primary concern being regarding the side.
We lost you.
He's muted.
Sorry, I touched the screen. My bad. So my main concern, like I said, they did a very nice job, really well designing a subdivision. I like the amount of green space that they've been able to incorporate into that. I think part of the appeal and part of the reason this has been a somewhat streamlined project has been that they brought such a good project. And I'm not saying that any of these things that they're asking for make it a bad project. I'm just saying for every push, there is a pull. And there have been some pulls already in the respect of that they've asked for some mitigation of where the subdivision guidelines required 2 sidewalks. They've asked for 1. They're now further asking for that to be even reduced from there. The planning board, before this subdivision even took place, had put in setbacks and guidelines for the 2 other lots that are on Medway Street to allow for a sidewalk. In other words, the planning board at one point or another felt like that was important. I say it over and over, but interconnection is the key, and sidewalks.
Sir, we're not discussing sidewalks yet. We'll get to that, but right now we're just talking about the lot coverage issue.
Right. So, but my point is that those 2 are intimately connected in that if you're going to ask for relief in one area, it's reasonable for the town to ask for a pullback in another. So when you say, hey, I want less sidewalks, and because I've done this really great design and maximize my green space, and everyone says, great, we love that, and we move forward with that, and then you come back and say, oh, well, now we want relief, and I agree that relief might be granted and might be even appropriate, but for every push there is a pull, and if we are going to give on this respect, I think it's important for this board to consider all of the requests that they're asking for. So I appreciate what you're saying of let's take them one at a time, but I'm also saying we've got to consider them all as a group.
Thank you for your comment. We understand that. Thank you. All right. Anyone else from the public care to comment or ask a question?
I think Michelle Mayhew has a question. She couldn't figure out how to raise her hand, so she sent me a text.
I do. I don't have the raise hand option. It's not on my screen. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hi,
Hello,
Michelle.
This is Michelle Mayhew. I'm at 12 Hampton Road, and I echo what the previous comment was when these special permits get approved, they get approved considering a whole bunch of factors. And to ask for conventional lot coverage when you've already been granted unconventional other things, it's all tied together as one intricate puzzle. So to have something that was approved as a entire planning effort, that's what the planning board does, and then to come back and start to unwind piece by piece and start to make it more conventional seems to me counter to the whole spirit of what an open space plan special permit is. So, you know, you say you can get back to the calculations, but it hasn't been done. We say as long as it doesn't go in the setbacks, but ultimately the whole purpose of a reduced lot coverage is because the lots are smaller. So to ask for a conventional coverage on smaller lots, it just seems counter to the whole process. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay. Further comments from board members?
I'm just remembering previous discussions where, and although I was not part of the planning board at the time, I think there was a negotiation to drive larger open space, and that's when the lot sizes were reduced. So having more open space was perceived as a benefit, and that's what the planning board asked for at the time. And maybe this was an oversight that was unaddressed. That's all I'm remembering historically.
Well, you know, Gary, when you're going through an open space permit, there are so many subjective areas in an open space permit requirements and there are so many give and takes. It's really hard to go back and recalculate and make a list of them at this point. So I think that what he did and developed was pretty much what we were looking for, along with that connection to Crescent Street. I think, Chris, I think if you're still there, I think you might have been, or I'm confused on the sidewalk. He didn't get any sidewalk relief. The one sidewalk that he's not putting in the subdivision, he's bound to put in on Medway Street. So there was no sidewalk relief per se in this plan.
John, that was my only point, was that I think that that's part of a discussion that may be taking place later on in the meeting. I might be mistaken, but that was my point, is like, I don't want to part out everything. We've got to kind of look at it as a collective. And if we're going to say, yeah, we're going to take this one sidewalk out and we're going to apply it as relief on Medway Branch, making the connection from this development to Lake Street, okay, and say, okay, that was the only mitigation. But then later on, we're going to discuss that, oh, we're going to take that mitigation away. That was my only point, is I wanted to make sure we're considering.
My only point, Chris, like I said, was as of this point, there has been no sidewalk relief on this subdivision.
Right.
But that's the next item. Yeah.
Right. So we need to have a motion here to approve the lot coverage on the lots at the Norway Farms to be 7,500 square feet per lot. If that motion is made, seconded, and approved, they will get the relief that they're looking for. So do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, now is there any further discussion before we take the vote on this?
Nope.
We've heard comments from the board. We've heard, and questions from the board. We've heard comments from the public, including an ex-board member. All right, all those in favor, Mr. Weddleton.
Aye.
Mr. Peck.
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, so we will give them that relief. Now, the second motion we need is one that she referred to waive a second filing fee, which is an administrative issue. So do we have a motion to waive that second filing fee?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Mr. Weddleton.
Aye.
Mr. Peck.
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, Elizabeth, you've got those.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Now to the question of sidewalks. Let's, I guess, who's going to lead this? Rick?
Well, if I may just introduce it, I think we can save a lot of contention. The revised application that we submitted after our discussion last month, you might note, we are no longer asking to be relieved of the obligation to build that sidewalk on Medway Street. This was actually initiated at the request of the town. We would be happy not to build it if that's what the town wishes to do. The only relief we are looking for at this point in time is to slightly relocate the piece of sidewalk that runs under the guide wires of the utility pole, and that is only because Eversource, when they place the guide wires, they're not exactly where they're supposed to be. But frankly, we heard the sentiments at last month's meeting. We heard that lovely young lady address the sidewalk issue, and unless the town feels very strongly about this and advocates for it, it is a subject that we are not inclined to pursue against the sentiment of the board. And now, Rick, you can perhaps explain what we are looking for, if you would.
Rick, let me jump in on here. So Barry Olivier, Norfolk DPW Assistant Director. So Rick and Rob asked me to meet them on site in regards to the guy wire and the telephone pole issue to look at relocating the sidewalk. So we came up with a viable solution for that. So while we were there, we were discussing the sidewalk going on the west side of the subdivision going towards Lake Street. As much as the DPW wants to put in some sidewalks and supports the installations of sidewalks, we want to be able to loop our sidewalks and have them interconnect. The sidewalk that we were looking at is pretty much going to nowhere. There is no plans to put sidewalks in on Lake Street. We just had the complete street study looking at pedestrian access and sidewalks in town, and Medway Street, it isn't a priority. So thinking about, excuse me, how we could use the money basically in lieu of money. So instead of putting the sidewalk in, we'd have them put that money in towards the sidewalk account. So then we can install sidewalks or fix sidewalks where we actually need them. The existing sidewalk, on the east side, they're planning to put in, makes a nice loop to Crescent and back through the new subdivision. There's a nice little walking trail in the back of that. So the idea is that we want to maximize our sidewalk potential and just not have sidewalks dead end anywhere. So that's what we were looking at.
Did you want to just add a couple of points? So Barry had put together a presentation that he could share with the board if you wanted to, that goes over the challenges with going a sidewalk beyond Lake Street to Cape Cod Estates in relation to the proximity of the homes, in relation to the layout and the sloping that, if you wanted to just see that quickly, just understand the rationale, it wasn't.
I actually walked it, Rich. You know, Barry, the problem is temporarily as we try to connect sidewalks, we're going to have dead ends until we start to get money to make connections, because we're never going to put in a 2,000-foot sidewalk all at one shot. So the reason the planning board, in my opinion, voted for that sidewalk is to just get it started.
John, I totally understand, but the viability of us putting sidewalks in on Medway Street, it didn't come out in the Complete Streets project. I think Medway Branch is a bigger priority.
Just let me finish.
We should look at that. There's a lot of issues. If Rich has the PowerPoint, I can kind of walk you through it.
No, I walked the whole street. And what I did, I just want to let our board members know, when I walked the street, between the historic stone walls that are 5 feet off the pavement that go for hundreds of feet.
Absolutely.
There are a number of trees that have a radius of 3 feet, a caliber of 3 feet or more. The grades will require multiple stone walls going down there. I can never see the town having the money to make that connection for the sidewalk. And I wish the planning board, wish I had taken a walk before, because as good as the intention was, is to start these sidewalks going, that would be an enormous task that I don't think we'd ever have the money. When we did it on King Street, that was a nightmare, and this makes King Street look like a flat plateau.
You're absolutely right, John. And the other thing we got coming up, we have the Lake Street project going on. That section of Medway Street is slated for phase 2 paving this year. So the timing of it just right now would be, I think we could use that money someplace else and benefit the town a whole lot better than putting that money in on Medway Street right now.
It reverts back to the planning board's conversation about all sidewalks are not equally costed. And this one here, if there's a scale of 1 to 10, this is 50.
Oh, it's
so
absolutely,
My question, the Cape Cod Estates neighborhood, do they have a walking area over to Medway Branch where they can get to the center of town?
So sidewalks on Cape Cod Estates go to Barnstable. So
Yep.
basically the section of Medway Branch from the DPW to Tucker, there is no sidewalks. Now, Rich and I have been discussing, and we've been looking at viable options to make a pedestrian multi-use path through there.
Right.
And that was very high on the priority list for complete streets. That was like number 1 or 2.
Because that would get this big neighborhood walking access to the center of town.
I drive there every single day. There's walkers, there's bicyclists on Medway Branch, and they're all getting to Tucker, so then they can go to Boardman, Rockwood, go to the center of town.
Okay.
So I think, again, that's why it goes back to, we want to put sidewalks in, but we want to make sense out of it. We want to have viable loops, connections, and I think this, if we focus on Medway Branch as our priority, I think it solves a lot of issues.
That's the senior center? Go past the senior center? Okay.
Yeah, going past the senior center.
Rich,
Yes.
if we were to agree to Barry's recommendation, how many feet of sidewalk are we foregoing on Medway Street?
I think it was like 350 or so. It wasn't a whole lot.
How many feet, Barry, to connect up the Cape Cod Estates over to the Medway Branch area?
That I can tell you that tomorrow morning because we just milled it today and I got the numbers back in the office. Right now, off the top of my head, I wouldn't know.
Might it be close to being a swap?
No, it's definitely a greater amount on Medway Branch.
But it makes it more doable to go to Medway Branch to center of town.
Yeah. Well, the other thing with the sidewalk on Medway Street, it's not going all the way to Lake Street. It's going to the end of the existing property.
Right.
So there's going to be a gap there anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not that true loop that we really want to look for. I think the sidewalk that he has going from Norway Farms to Crescent, that's a nice walking loop. I see the sidewalks in Crescent already. There's a little path in the back. I mean, that makes a nice little walking loop.
Barry, how many feet from Crescent out to Main Street?
Oh, that's another, Walter, that's going to be another headache of a sidewalk installation project. We got old trees, grades. I think that's probably all of a half a mile from Norway Farms to Main Street. But again, that's the fight we're going to fight with the roads in Norfolk. With the town wanted to keep that rural feel and have that rural aspect. And then it makes it difficult to put sidewalks in. If I go to cut trees, I have to look at the scenic bylaw. We have to look at stone walls. We have to look at grading.
Yep.
There's a lot to it. I know this is a discussion that we've been having with the planning board for quite a while. Rich and I have been talking about this forever. It's something I really want to get going on. There's just a lot of obstacles for us to overcome.
Okay, let's cycle back and talk a little bit about the small adjustment near at the end of the Norway Farm Drive coming out onto Medway Street due to the guy wire issue. Rick, could you at least take us through that?
You want to display should I display the plan so you can see it?
Yeah, sure. That's a good idea. And then Rick can talk to us about it.
So I think that one's in the.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
There it is. Thank you. Oop. So we did a little sketch plan that depicts the location of the utility pole that was installed, as well as the two guy wires that were installed, where we originally believed there was only going to be one guy wire. And basically what we've done was relocated the proposed ramp to a little bit to the southwest, if you will, of the original proposed location. And then we flattened out a section of the sidewalk, kept it within the right-of-way, but basically just flattened it out so that you would come northerly along Norway Farms Drive and then make a slight curve and then continue straight and then make another curve to the right to head to the southeast towards Crestbrook Road. So what we did not want is for that crosswalk, that ramp area to be located under those guy wires. We wanted to be
Right.
free of those guy wires. So that's why we proposed to relocate that crosswalk as well as the ramp into those areas.
All right, now, since we have this up, we can also touch a little bit on the idea, if the board agrees tonight to forego the sidewalk running down Medway Street in the opposite direction towards Lake Street, you probably will not put the crosswalk in, correct?
Exactly. Rich, do you have that PowerPoint that I sent to you, the PDF, or I have it, I can pull it up.
Why don't you,
I don't know if you can share with me, but it'll give everybody a good picture of what we're looking at.
yeah, let me, hold on, let me, I'll share with you a second. Here.
Rick, I believe that would also obviate the need for the handicap ramp. There's a handicap ramp shown on the Lake Street side as well, isn't there? Or is it just a crosswalk?
Yes, no, there's a crosswalk and a handicap ramp.
Okay,
And one's being proposed on each side
okay.
of the roadway at this point, pending the further discussion on the sidewalk from the project towards Lake Street.
Thank you.
Thank you, Willis.
You should I share with you, Barry?
Yep. Thanks, Rich. Perfect. So I went out just to take a few pictures so everybody kind of understand. So the applicant requested to relocate the curb ramp. So you can see where the guy wires is that currently exists. That's where the sidewalk was going to go. So we're looking to relocate the ramp in that area. So basically, it causes ADA issues if we try to go too close to the pole and the guy wires, and we're looking for improved pedestrian access. Just a little brief of the discussion we've just had on Medway Street. We won't go down that one. So this shows the layout from sidewalks from Norway Farms to Crestbrook, Norway Farms to Lake Street. So you can see it goes to 3 lots, but actually stops short of going all the way to Lake Street. This little piece down here shows the loop from Crestbrook Road back into the subdivision. So basically you would come out of Norway Farms, have sidewalks to Crestbrook, all the way down Crestbrook, and then loop back into Norway Farms. So there's some of the images that I took to kind of describe so everybody can see what we're going out there. So this is going towards Myrtle Street. So you can say I have a low side, I have utility poles, we have property density, we have a high side, so you can see the stone walls, the grade changes we have. The other big issue we have with this too is I don't even know how much the road actually lays out in the right of way. That's a big issue in town too. So if the road's not in the right of way, I'm going to put sidewalks in. We're looking at, takings, agreement, eminent domain, nasty things you really don't want to go down. This is, again, showing the load side, the high side of Medway Street. This is right before Chatham Road, right before the dog officer's house. So you can see how low Hillary sits. So there's going to be, as we talked about, just a lot of construction issues. I just wanted to actually show you these pictures so you get a little better understanding of what we're looking at out there. And then just some of the issues we were looking at, road alignment issues, grade issues, sidewalk continuity. We really want to, look for that in our projects. We want that continuity where we're connecting different areas together.
All right, thank you, Barry.
All right.
All right, further comments or questions from board members?
No.
So Barry, what is your recommendation?
So I recommend that we don't put the sidewalk in on the west side going towards Lake Street. Have them put in the sidewalk on the east side going towards Crescent. And in lieu of putting in the sidewalk, he could pay into the sidewalk fund so that we have money to basically put sidewalks where we need to put them.
Yeah, that would be the proposal that I would would recommend if we follow this recommendation from DPW.
And again, this is, this is a recommendation. I want to work together with the planning board. I think we should all work together on these issues, but I think in this instant, I think it would be better for us, better serve ourselves if we use the money someplace else and then trying to go down Lake Street to Medway Street.
Chad, any question?
So Rick and I guess this is for Rick and Bob. So what's your thoughts on this recommendation from the DPW?
Rob, would you like to answer?
Yeah. So it's Rob. I'm okay with that. The subdivision bylaw, my recollection is you need to put sidewalks on both sides of the subdivision, and where we had the drainage swale on the west side, I just figured that I would put the sidewalk, use it in front of my property rather than, paying into a sidewalk fund or whatever provisions the town had before where we're at now. And so I'm okay with it either way.
Okay.
So.
All right, then, hearing all of that, are there any further questions or comments from the public? All right, hearing none, then.
I have my hand raised. Sorry.
Hello. Who's this?
Sorry, Chris Henry, 30 Boardman Street. I did have my hand raised.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions. So while we have Barry on the line, Barry, can you tell me what the distance is from where the sidewalk will end on Medway Street, as you're stating, before it meets Lake Street, and where the sidewalk begins on, what is that, Barnstable? So can you pull up, can we pull up the picture just so we can see it? Because I think that was helpful. So my argument is that while that might be a difficult stretch to try and connect, and it might not be the priority, to John's point, why aren't we taking advantage of the builder saying, hey, I've already planned for this. The planning board has already asked for this. Why aren't we putting it in?
So Chris, here's Medway Street.
Sidewalk on the other side.
So here's Medway Street. Here's Norway Farms. This is Lake Street right here.
I'm sorry, it's hard to see your cursor. I'm trying to blow it up. Can you do that one more time so I see?
Norway Farms.
Yep, thank you.
Lake Street.
Yep, and the sidewalk ends there. Thank you.
The sidewalk ends here. And then
What's
we got to
the
go
distance from there?
past Lake Street all the way down to Chatham.
No, not to Chatham. The sidewalk starts at Barnstable, which is the next turn.
No, it's not. So it would go from, this is Lake Street. So we're going Medway all the way down like we're going to Myrtle Street. So the next one would be Chatham. If I go
Next one is
back this
Barnstable.
way, Barnstable's way off the map.
Barry, I don't mean to argue, but I believe that as you come out of Lake Street, the next turn is directly across from Hillary's property, which is that not what's the name of that? It's not Chatham. Chatham is the next one down.
Truro. I think you're considering Truro.
I apologize. So what is the distance from that sidewalk to Truro?
Probably all of 1,000 feet.
Is that a ballpark or is that an actual number?
It's a ballpark right now. I can tell you I'm paving.
That's fair.
I'm paving probably, 1,100 feet out there. That's probably half it. So I'd say it's 800 to 1,000 feet from Lake Street to Truro.
Okay, so we could argue that number, but that's good enough for my intent. My argument through this whole discussion is sidewalks are so hard to come by. Barry, as your example of that sort of sidewalk to nowhere that comes down Medway Branch and then stops at Tucker and runs short for, what is that, 1,500 feet, right, to connect to what is the largest subdivision in all of Norfolk, right? Yep. So those sort of pockets that we have that we're almost there, but we're not quite. This is an example of that, of like, let's not give up that opportunity. So in that vein, when we talk, and this is a recent discussion that took place of when they were talking about the Camger property, there was some sidewalk mitigation that was happening there, and there was a question of, the DPW gave a proposal of what it is on a per foot basis to create the sidewalk for us as a town, okay? And then there was what the mitigation number was, and those two numbers were dramatically different. So my question is, why are we giving away 10 cents on the dollar when we have a developer that has said, not only is it in my plan, was it requested by planning board, but it's ready to go. And I appreciate that you want to try and connect that other part, but you have somebody that's willing to do that small portion over there that maybe later on is that last little bit.
Yeah, Chris, Chris, that's the problem I think we've had in the past where, you know, we just had the Complete Streets project done. It's identified priorities. I don't think we, you know, in the past, we've had these sidewalks to nowhere, and there's no guarantee that we're ever going to get the funding to finish Medway Street.
So take them where you can get them, Barry. That's my answer. Take them where you can get them.
I totally understand that, but I've seen so many sidewalks and thinking like that where we can't get it, it'll never get done. I'd rather focus on Medway Branch.
Gentlemen, enough. We understand your points of view. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We need to move on.
Understood. Can I get an answer to the question of what is the value that the town DPW said this is what our per square foot process to make a sidewalk is, and what is our mitigation number that we're asking on a square foot basis? Can I get what those two numbers are?
It's not a square foot, it's a linear foot, but it's $30.
Sorry, thank you, linear foot.
$30 per linear foot is what we're asking.
And what did the DPW estimate the cost in actual real life was?
Well, it depends on whether it's a contractor or DPW doing the work.
I'll take the lowest number.
So it was $10 and now we're at 30. So we made a significant increase.
Take the money when we can get it. That's my opinion.
Gentlemen, I'd like to move on, please. All right, we have in front of us a proposition to, supported by the DPW, to forego the sidewalk in front of the property heading west on Medway Street. Is there any further discussion from board members?
No.
Then we need to put a motion on the table to forego that sidewalk and in its place have the Norway Farms contribute $30 per linear foot to the sidewalk fund. That would be the recommendation of DPW. So does anyone care to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so any further discussion on this motion?
This is Chad. I thought the recommendation from DPW was to, instead of going to Lake Street, was to go to Crossbrook or Crestbrook Road.
Well, that will be done. That's part of the plan. That will be done.
Oh, okay.
There are two parts out on Medway Street. One was to go to Crestbrook and the other was to head toward Lake Street. We're talking about the one that heads toward Lake Street.
Correct.
But it is not the obligation of the developer to put in that sidewalk. Is that correct?
Well, it's part of the plan now. If we pass this motion, it will be foregone, right?
To Chad's point, I thought the way you're wording this is that they're just going to provide funding to the DPW.
For that, in lieu of doing that section of sidewalk. That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I was looking for, is clarification on. So we want to forego from Norway Farms Road towards Lake Street. That would be, we would forego and do that in lieu of.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And that would give, how many feet is that? Do we ever do a measurement on that?
Yeah, I can get you guys that tomorrow. I think it actually says it right on the plans. Hold on, let me.
I think it does.
Yeah.
Those house lots are, I believe, 150-foot frontages. So
it's like 300 and change, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay, I got it.
We can get that number for Barry tomorrow.
It's roughly $9,000 that we're talking about here. All right, motion has been made and seconded. We will take a roll call vote. Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. All right, so Barry, your recommendation was followed, and we will now have some money to allow you to do some work elsewhere in the town.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's try and connect that sidewalk from the senior center down to the biggest neighborhood in Norfolk.
We're working on it, Chris.
Chris, we appreciate your input. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Chairman Byron, can you hear me? This is Elizabeth.
Yes, Elizabeth.
I'm so sorry I lost you. In any event, one thing I think administratively I'm going to have to do, because our second submittal did not include the request to do that. My original one did. So if I could move to substitute my original application that included eliminating that sidewalk, just housekeeping wise, I don't know if you have it properly from me in front of you to grant this relief. I just want to do the housekeeping on it.
Okay, let me check with my housekeeper. Rich, what do you think of her request?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was sweeping. Yeah, I think that's fine. That's fine to amend the request.
All right, so
Okay.
that means we need another motion, correct?
Yes.
All right, so phrase the motion.
Well, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh boy. So the motion is to modify the subdivision to make a payment in lieu of construction of the sidewalk from Norway Farm Drive to.
Well, let me interrupt for a moment. I thought what we were going to make a motion on was to substitute applications.
Oh.
Is that not true, Elizabeth?
Yes, that was my point. I don't think the second submittal I made does not include the request to eliminate that sidewalk. The first request that I had originally submitted to you did include that request. So I would just ask to substitute or to amend the request in front of you to include the elimination of the sidewalk as originally discussed last month.
Second that. No,
All right. Let me try. We have a motion. We require chair requests have a motion to substitute Elizabeth Maitland's initial application, which included the request to remove the sidewalk on the west side of Medway Street, and substitute that application for the one submitted for this evening's public hearing.
That's just so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second? Now, do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, administratively, I think we've caught up.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, Elizabeth, before we move on to the next item?
One other item, Norway Farms, we have a lot release pending, lot 5.
Oh, yes, oh, yes, yes. Let's see, Rich, are we up to date with the affordable housing contributions from Norway Farm to allow us to go ahead and approve the lot release for lot 5?
Yes, we are.
We are, okay. Then we need a motion to release lot 5 for Norway Farm.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, those in favor, Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. That's a good night for you, Elizabeth.
Just for your information, the money was deposited, the open space maintenance, into the homeowners association account.
Great.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Good evening to you all. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Okay, Rob. All right, moving along. Next item is public hearing for annual town meeting proposed zoning amendments, citizen petition. Gary, you're up.
I am. I got it. Let me go find it. Whoops. Let me scroll down a little here. Okay, there it is. You're right. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A 5, that Norfolk Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 16, 2020 at 7:45 p.m. in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law GLC 30A20 relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency. Discuss proposed changes to the Norfolk zoning bylaws which have been submitted by the citizen petition to the warrant for the annual town meeting. Am I reading the right notice?
Yep, you are.
Okay. All right. The meeting shall be physically closed. Do you want me to what part? Am I reading down to the bottom? Good.
I
Okay.
think you can skip that paragraph and go to the article as
Okay.
follows.
The article is as follows. To see if the town of Norfolk will vote to amend section J7A1C, special permit uses by the planning board of the zoning bylaws by inserting the following language below, after drive-up windows, or take any action relative thereto. J7A1C, special permit uses by the planning board. Residential dwellings at a density of not less than 4 units per 30,000 square foot or greater lot, and not more than 1 unit per 5,000 square feet of land. Special permit for the following area. Starting on the northern side of Route 115 Pine Street, northwest of Everett Street, at the intersection of the C1 and R3 district, and running northwesterly along Route 115 Pine Street for a depth of 300 feet to Route 1A, Dedham Street, then turning northeasterly along Route 1A, Dedham Street, and running on the easterly side of Route 1A, Dedham Street, for a depth of 300 feet, ending at Valley Street.
Thank you, Gary. Let's see. Rich, before we get looking at any maps, is the language as you understand it and presented here correct?
Yes.
Okay, has it been tested by town council?
It was tested by town council and then conferred with Jay Tolman, who is the town moderator, but also acts as people who don't know, as legal counsel for other communities. And in his opinion, in conference with Peter Mello, representing the town, the language is fine. The only question that was raised initially by town council was the uniformity provision of the State Zoning Act, Chapter 48, Section 4. However, Jay Tolman's opinion, which was that there was no uniformity issue here, so it's fine as submitted.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Elizabeth, I believe you're the presenter here. You want to speak to this?
Oh, I can unmute her. I'll hold on. There you go.
You are unmuted.
Hi. So I apologize. This is Peter Schwalbe, 58 Everett. As associate member of the planning board, I believe I live quite close to where these zoning amendments are being proposed. And as such, I think I should recuse myself from representing the planning board on this discussion. So I just wanted to make sure that I got that into the record for you guys, that I'll recuse myself.
Thank you, Peter. All right, Elizabeth?
Hi, Peter. Yes. Hello, Elizabeth Whitney here, and good evening, Norfolk Planning Board. I live at 26 Valley Street in Pondville, which I think most people know for some 38 years now. I'm already in the town warrant booklet. I'm Article 24, which is asking for residential, and Rich is going to stick a little correction in here. residential by special permit on highway in the C1D district. Rich, are you going to just quickly explain the little mistake?
Sure.
Okay.
So if you had an opportunity to take a look at the warrant that was mailed to your home, in the description from the advisory board, they wrote in the word, which was a mistake, by right. That's not correct. It is by special permit. So I just want to, that was a.
So with that correction clear and known, it is not zoning by right that I'm requesting. It's zoning by special permit. Back in 2013, a bylaw change was voted at town meeting. I was thrilled. It was a bylaw request, a change requested that would allow residential development in the C1D district off highway by special permit. And it passed, I consider it overwhelmingly, 61-16. And when I looked at the tape the next day that I requested, I noticed that people who supported it weren't people that I asked to please go and vote for it. It was people from all over the town of Norfolk, which is why I call it an overwhelming success that night in 2013. Now, back then, and certainly now, many folks, of course, are worried about the R word, residential, because residential, of course, means families, which usually involves children. Children involve schools, and schools cost tax money. Well, in 2013 and very recently, I did some research, and what I learned in 2013 is pretty much the case these days, that, and I must mention that the special permit has various variables that would, as the article says, 1 unit per 5,000 square feet. There are automatic variables that would control. The studies showed then and show now that townhouses, or what some people call condominiums, really don't encourage families with children living in them. And how do I know that this is working? Of course, I live right in the middle of it. And there are on Valley Street 12 beautiful units. A family with a mother and 2 children were here for a few years. Those were the only children who lived in these beautiful units. And recently, the mother and the children have bought a house elsewhere. So now in 2020, I would love to round out the residential by special permit as begun in 2013, but on highway, as described in the article, certain parcels, as described in the article, not huge swaths of land, but as described in the article. I'd like to reference taxes. And very recently, I did call the tax department and found out that the townhouses on Valley Street, which we love, right across the street from us and next to us. The townhouses generate $63,200 of tax benefit per year. Now, that versus a location on Hill Street that is commercial, that yields $9,200 in tax benefit per year. And the square footage is approximately 1,000 square feet more. So to say the R word, residential, is going to be a burden. It's going to mean children who are a burden. It's going to mean taxes for the schools, considered a burden, has not worked out that way in Pondville here. And again, I've lived here with my family since this bylaw change, the first one, took place in 2013. So one might say, well, what about commercial? What about industrial? And I've said this publicly before. In 2006, Shire Industrial Park was designed and built. I took a ride through it again yesterday. I consider that to be an excellent location for commercial and industrial businesses with heavy trucking, earlier and later hours, noise, lighting, etc. As Shire Industrial Park is designed to absorb these kinds of businesses. So in the end, my article is really very simple. I would love, and believe me, I've never been short-winded, but I've tried to consolidate my comments. I would like to end by just reading 2 paragraphs. My article asks that a long time residential neighborhood, both in spirit and in practice, regardless of its commercial additions. My article asks that it has a chance to retain that particular character of residential, both off and on highway. Of course, and I said this at the microphone in 2013, all Norfolk residents would have the right to attend a planning board meeting, and the planning board would be the board to either grant or not grant a special permit for residential, and citizens can fight for their position, whether it is yes or no. And finally, to this end, and I am passionate about this, and I love Pondville, and anybody who knows me knows that I do. In my book that I wrote and published in 2011, I started it in 2009, The History of Pondville, I stated, my goal and my dream regarding Pondville always was and is to ensure a possibility of becoming, as it once was, a neighborhood, a tax contributing neighborhood, and acknowledged also for its many contributions to the town of Norfolk as a whole. I want to help with the protection and the survival of our neighborhood. Pondville has made its place in history, and can I still be heard?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Past history is inherently hoping to see a successful future. And I understand from what I think I heard the caller say that there are some questions. But Rich, I think you're going to show some maps.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Go ahead, Rich, put that map up that you prepared.
Sure.
Just a mute before you do that, John.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. There we go. I'm sorry.
There we go.
Okay. So
All
hopefully,
right, you want to walk us through this now?
sure. So I'll start up here on along Dedham Street and Valley Street. So right now I went through the assessor's database. Right now this property here is shown as owner unknown, so I don't quite know the ownership of that. As we come towards the intersection, this property here is where the condominiums are on Valley Street that Ms. Quigley has here. There is a conservation restriction that was placed on this property back with the approval.
Rich, can I just tell you one thing?
Oh, sure.
See where it says owner unknown?
Yeah.
I was told that was owned by the town. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, we'll have to
ask the town.
Yeah, dig a little deeper. This one's a little bit odd one to me, but this one's not showing up with any ownership here.
Okay.
So we'll see on that one.
Okay.
Mr. Gray owns transit seating on the corner as we're on Pine Street and Route 1A, Dedham Street. And then as we proceed up Pine Street, this is Rocco Plaza. It's owned by Mr. Quigley. This is the Pine Street Medical Building, which is, it's an LLC. So I did some of these ones that are LLCs. I put the manager of record on there, so for the public to be able to know who the manager is. This property here, which is on Valley Street and also it's pretty close to Pine Street. As you can see the name, it's privately owned. It's a single family home. This property here, which is 35 Pine, is owned by Mr. Quigley, but also has a 40B application that has been submitted to the Board of Appeals and has not been heard yet because of the amount of 40B that are before the Zoning Board of Appeals, but that I suspect will be heard pretty shortly. This property here is a single family home, which is owned by the Brimless. And then the next property here is Mrs. Gould's property that actually runs from here all the way over to Hill Street.
Yeah.
And is, shall we say, ground zero of the issue of the lots shown on the tax records versus the A&R plan and so forth. But nevertheless, the owner record is Mrs. Gould. So I can go to the next slide, which will then.
Rich, before you move off this one, go back to the one up on Dedham Street there that's owned by Mr. Quigley that you mentioned had a
this one here?
Conservation restriction.
Yep.
Just how restrictive is that ruling, and does it prevent further development of that lot?
It's wetlands, I thought.
It does. it prevents further development of the lot.
All right, another question. There's 3 words there, Old Pond Street. Right under the word old is a lot number 2. Who owns that one?
This one here?
Yeah, that's still within this potential bylaw change, is it not?
No, I think it's past 300 feet. I think
Just barely touches on 2 corners of it, Rich, on one of your other slides.
okay. Yeah, so that one is kind of outside the.
It's
It's
outside.
fairly new owners, young couple.
Is it a private home?
Yes, it's a 2-family up and down. Yep,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Okay, Rich, go ahead, please.
So this one, now again, gets you a little bit closer view of those properties. So the area that's outlined in red is the on-highway district, which is this is one slide. There'll be another one which describes the area that's being considered to add in a special permit use to the C1 on-highway district. Presently, the rear portion, which is the C1D, it's already allowed by special permit. So this would just merge it to this portion, and it's just on this side of Pine Street.
Yeah, that's.
What's the situation on the other 3 of the 4 corners there? This would not be allowed. What we're discussing doesn't extend across Pine Street, across Dedham Street. It's only in this corner.
It doesn't, no, that's correct. Just what you see identified here. And then I'll show you the next slide carrying up.
Okay.
So that's just, there we go, the next one. So this kind of rounds it up and brings it up to Valley Street. So it's a subset area of the on-highway C1D district just on the east side of Dedham Street. And I guess it'd be the northeast side of Pine Street, which is highlighted here below.
Essentially, the lots that are potentially developable as residences are the ones over on almost like the entrance to Valley Street there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So this one, so that to Hill Street would not essentially would be uniform now as if this were to pass related to this particular use. Right now it's split.
Yeah.
That's the C1D district. And then, like you said, the other 2 on Pine Street.
Yeah.
And just for informational purposes, so when you first, Mrs. Whitney came before the board back in April, from that point to this point, there was a couple of petitions that were withdrawn and put it in this place because this is the intent, the original intent of what you wanted to do was just add this into the Pondville area of the C1D district on highway. So if you recall the other one, it was more broadly considered. That's not what's being considered.
All right, questions from board members?
In my opinion, it's being narrowly applied. I understand where Pondville is, but I'm not sure why it doesn't go across C1. Why are we only looking at making the change on one of 4 corners?
Well, I think the one, it's a good question. I think at least the take was that I think for this area, as far as what's been developed along the area, I think integrating some residential with it wouldn't be as conflicting per se as some of the other side of at least on this on highway across the street from Pine Street, and then up and down the other portions of the C1 on highway. Now that's not to say that, you know, upon further review, that might be something that could be revisited, but I think that the thought was that, you know, this would blend well as a transitional piece as you come in, You travel on Pine Street into this commercial district, which has a mix of some residential and some commercial.
Pretty much the other corners are almost fully developed as commercial properties.
Yes. So
If you looked at the equivalent right angle chunks of on-highway in the other three districts is almost completely full of commercial property.
were there only 3 lots that this actually applies to, because there's a conservation restriction on the largest parcel, and then in between that, in the hydro seeding place, there's 1. Everything else looks developable, looks like it is developed until you get down to 35 and 39. So are there only 3 lots that this is actually going to apply to, or?
No, here's the plus side, or how you want to look at it, zoning.
Yeah.
It's there today. There are some vacant pieces, but there are also some developed pieces. It doesn't preclude from down the road if these property owners decide, you know what, maybe I might tear down what I have and rebuild and go this direction. So while practically speaking, it's probably more applicable to the vacant lots, but it's not precluded in any way from the ones.
Okay, then I would go back to what I said previously, that I think this is being narrowly applied, and the other people might take exception on the other 3 corners.
No, that's a.
Yeah, it's just, Gary, those other 3 corners, there's really no residential. I mean, you got just this one corner's got Pondville behind it. The other ones,
I understand.
really,
So,
yeah.
But you're saying people that have developed properties on this corner have a potential benefit to knock down what already exists there and build a lot of residential. And maybe that works if you look at what that business model would be. I don't see how you can just apply that to a small portion of C1.
I agree with that as well.
I don't. I think that it's appropriate to leave the other 3 as commercial only on highway. It's really the only commercial district we have in town. Yes, we do have a little piece over by Camger, and I think there's a small piece up in front of, off 115 there in the Placido development. This name escapes me at the moment. Residential area up there. And there's maybe one other, but this is essentially the large commercial area we have in town. And I'm not in favor of opening it up to residences other than what Betsy has proposed. That's just my view.
But you do, Walter, am I hearing some support for what Betsy has proposed? Because I so think that at the end of Valley Street, as it enters Pine, that amount, small amount, I just think that the chance to have residential by special permit would be a good thing. It's worked already since 2013, so I'm hoping that the residential by special permit could continue to round out the on-highway. And each applicant has to take their chances and go before the board and sell their idea is what I'm truly hoping for, at least a chance for a chance for a real residential neighborhood.
Thank you, Betsy.
Town permission, yes.
All right.
So are we only being asked to support, or we are putting forward the article?
No, the citizen, in this case, Betsy, is putting forth the article.
Okay.
She had sufficient signatures to get it on the warrant. And Rich worked with her and town council to get the language right. I think it took a couple of tries, but what the language here is appropriate. As he said earlier, been blessed by town council and also the moderator. So what we're being asked tonight to do is either to create a position. We will be asked, or probably I will be asked at town meeting, what is the position of the planning board relative to this article? and we will either support it or not support it. And we'll have a reason, if we don't support it, we'll have a reason that says we don't support it because of X.
Now, the one, just, I did speak to Mrs. Whitney before the meeting, so we got to this point. So I had mentioned to her that now there's only 4 of you there tonight. Depends upon the outcome. If there is not a favorable recommendation by the planning board, it goes to town meeting. If it doesn't get a favorable vote, which is a 2/3 approval, it can't be reconsidered for 2 years. But that's step 2, so to speak. But I just, as
Does it go before the select committee?
no. So by statute, you're required the planning board to make a recommendation, either favorable or against, or perhaps of an amendment if those are the case. This is a citizen petition, so you view it as is. You can always suggest amendments if there were to be the case. But quite frankly, in this case, you really can't make any amendments because you can't go beyond the scope of it. But if you choose, if the vote turns out negative, which it fails to carry a majority, they can go forward to town meeting. It's just that if it doesn't get the approval of town meeting, it can't be reconsidered for 2 years. So
I would love to interject a question, because in 2013, this was a brand new concept. I didn't know. I was very surprised when I opened my town warrant booklet and read that proposed bylaw change. That was a huge change in my area. And I didn't go to meetings, which was my fault. Was the 2013 bylaw, Walter, you were involved in that. Do you remember these kinds of discussions back then? Because that bylaw change obviously passed, which is why I'm here tonight.
Yeah, I recall it was thoroughly discussed and voted on as you said earlier in the meeting, voted on at town meeting favorable. And consequently, a number of homes have been built in the Pondville area.
But in order to get to town meeting with the recommendation of the planning board, or the approval, or whatever you call it.
Support, yeah.
The support, that's the word I'm looking for. In order to have achieved the support of the planning board, how did that happen when it was such a new concept?
Well, actually, it wasn't a new concept. The citizen petition, if that's what you're referring to, has been available for quite a while.
No, the content of the citizen petition.
Well, the content. Well, it's just a matter of coming before the planning board, however it was constituted back then, and making your case as you did tonight, and having the planning board discuss it and come up with a support. I presume it was a supporting statement. I don't recall back then at town meeting, and when the moderator asked the chairman of the planning board what the position was, they probably stood up and said they supported it.
Which is what I really love.
All right, further questions from board members?
Nope.
Any further questions from or comments from the public?
Hi, this is Bob Paschke, 22 Stop River Road. If this were to pass at town meeting, and if residential units were to be built, at any point in time, would that not, maybe not preclude the building of businesses? And aren't the businesses taxed at a higher rate than the residential property?
No.
They're not. No, they're taxed the same. There's no
tax rate is the same.
Yeah, tax rate is the same, right?
Yep.
So same piece of property would pull in the same amount of taxes, whether it's residential or commercial.
It depends on the value of the structures.
Right.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the public?
Walter, these we're really only talking 3 lots, because the the state highway, the intersection, which is commercial, which I think it should be, and the rest of Dedham Street is either wet or built. So we're talking really 3 lots. And the one thing that is appealing with the zoning they enacted before, with the 4 units minimum per lot, most apartments or condos are 1 or 2 bedrooms. Most rentals are basically now, as you heard from Tommy at the B1 meeting, 1 bedrooms are the things that sell. If these 3 lots were bought up by somebody and made into 140B, the problem is with the 40B, you're required to have so many 3-bedroom units, so many 2-bedroom units, and of course you have no control over the aesthetics of the project. If this was allowed residential, the town would have control over it, and I would highly suspect the person doing the units would leave it at 1 or 2 bedrooms and certainly not 3, because that's just not a marketable thing today like the other one. So I think where this is prime for somebody buying those together and making one, I think that that's a feature. And I also think that, I mean, 90% of Pine Street is all residential, except for the intersection, or it's state-owned woodlands. And these 3 lots sort of gel into little small homes or people that have lived there for years. And I think it's a nicer transition from the intersection of 1A into the rest of Pine Street that's all residential, that's all. So in that regard, I think it has a plus. And commercial-wise, even 4 units on 1 lot compared to a commercial building, the tax revenue for the town is substantially more with the residential. I've been saying this for years and years and years. One condominium that sells for $500 pays $7,000 or $8,000 in taxes, and one prefab metal building may pay 6 or 7. So putting 4 residential on 1 lot, you've got substantially more tax revenue. So now if you can control that 3rd bedroom, so you don't have the opportunity to have children in the system, then I think it works for both sides for the town. But I think aesthetically that would look nicer. As I said, we could control the project and have it set back and leave some frontage there so it looks nicer. That's all.
Yep. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Yeah.
All right, let's move to a motion to. Hello. Go ahead, Donna Jones.
My hand is raised on the computer. The select board votes every year whether to have the residential versus business rate be the same. It's the decision they've made in most years, every year that I've noticed, is that it's hard to get businesses here, so they keep it the same. It's my understanding that could change year by year.
Yep.
Well, the other, just to add a little bit, the other companion to that, Donna, which is we don't have the amount of commercial base that communities would consider doing a split rate. So most communities, when they look at commercial split rate, it's in the 25% split residential to commercial. And we have roughly maybe 9% commercial.
Not even that. I don't think I think it's like 92 or 93% residential.
So
in terms of tax revenue.
Right. So it's.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Chair would entertain a motion to support the citizen article.
Donna's trying to ask more questions.
All right, Donna, go ahead.
Is there any natural gas in this area?
Natural gas.
Let's see. Rich, can you help us with that?
Well, the one person that's muted would be the one that I would ask, Mr. Quigley. He might.
I think there is, but I'm not sure.
There's natural gas at Rocco Plaza. So I'm assuming
like
Colonial Fence.
Underground?
What?
Yes, natural gas, a natural gas connection to Rocco Plaza. I know that. I believe there's one for the medical building also, but it does not go down Valley Street. I think the natural gas connection may stop at somewhere on Valley before Hill.
But it sounds like it would be in the area of the lots that we're discussing.
Oh, that's a possibility.
Yeah, possibly.
Thank you, Al. All right. One last time, anyone else have a question or comment?
Donna, could you please explain the units per square feet.
Rich, you want to talk about the bylaw in terms of units per lot?
Sure, yep. So the lot, first of all, has to have 30,000 square feet. And then the unit is 4 units per every 5,000 square feet of area. So just take 5,000 square feet divided by the total lot size will then get your unit count. It has to be a minimum of 4, and then it'll be above that number, whatever the lot size would be.
Thank you. Donna's done.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Chair will entertain a motion to support the citizen petition. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? No second. Do we have a second? I'll ask again. We don't have a second. We do not have a motion. We need a motion to not support then this citizen petition. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Well, all right, we have a motion on the table to not support the citizen petition. If you vote yes, you are not supporting the citizen petition. If you vote no, then you will defeat this motion. Mr. Weddleton?
No.
Mr. Peck?
Yes.
Mr. Searle?
Yes.
The chair votes no. We have a tie. And unfortunately, Mr. Saub has recused himself, and we have an absent member. So,
yeah, Mr. Fowler couldn't vote anyway because he's an associate member.
yeah, I understand. Okay. Well, Rich, with this,
Well, so like I said, or stated before you voted, essentially it's a negative recommendation. The planning board, it can go on the town meeting. And if, if town meeting approves it, and they can vote against the planning board recommendation, then it passes with a 2/3 vote. If it doesn't pass at town meeting, then it can't come back for 2 years.
yes, all right. When called upon to give the planning board recommendation, I will say that we had a tie vote, 4 members present during the evening, and leave it at that.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. Let's.
Walter, is there clarity on the reasoning behind no votes?
There doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. Okay.
Yeah.
If those members are present during the town meeting and wish members who voted not to support it choose to stand up and give their reasons on the town floor, that's perfectly acceptable.
Normally in the past, Walter, at town meeting, when there's been a board split, we have one person speak for the pros and one person speak for the nays, and so both sides get out.
I see. All right, John, that's the first time I've run into this, so thank you for that.
Welcome.
Walter, Chris Henry has a question.
Mr. Henry?
I would just like to echo that comment that I think that that's a great way to handle it. Every side should say what their point is as to why they're in favor or they're against. And I would encourage Betsy to bring this to town meeting, regardless of the recommendation of this board. I think let the people of the town speak.
Thank you, Chris. All right, moving along. The next item on our agenda is Maple Park Estates 3, Hampton Road, request to modify approved curbing from granite to asphalt berm. Who speaks to this?
So we have, I believe we have Scott Caldwell online, and we also have Barry La Riviera, who is available as well to discuss this change and the rationale behind it.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I'll go. So
We got a call last week that they were looking to start putting the final touches on the project. So I met Scott and his the guy doing the site work on site. We were looking at their roadway. The original plan was to put the granite and curb in. I made the suggestion that they approach the board and look for the waiver to get the mono berm in, as we've been doing with most subdivisions recently. We went over the sidewalk layout, the paving layout. And I talked to Scott a little bit more about getting you guys notice of the work that he was planning to complete and get ready to wrap up the project.
All right, the package that we received tonight to consider this included a little map of the area. Can you put that up, please, someone?
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Was this new business, by the way? Do I need to read an notice into the record?
No, you don't.
Okay.
This is just general
Okay.
business.
Connection issues. Looks like it froze. What the?
Yeah, what's with that?
Let me try to see if it freezes. This is in the packet, right, Betsy?
Yes. Yeah, it was just the GIS.
There it is.
Okay.
It was just a GIS map.
Okay.
We kind of had a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
There we go.
Got
All right, now can someone point from where to where we're talking about here?
We're talking about from intersection of Hampton Road and Berkshire Road, which is lots 22 and 24 in the core, extending to the north up into the intersection of Essex and Hampton, which is lots 17 and 19. That section of road.
Yep, thank you. And is this the last section of road to be paved and put curbing in?
Yes.
And is there, what's the type of edging that's in the other roads? Is it monolithic berm or is it granite?
It's a bit of mix up there, Walter. Majority of the roads have granite, but then they're, through different phases of the project, there are some with like Norfolk Cape Cod, not the mono berm. That's one of the comments I made in my notes is, the look and feel out there is all granite. Just, basically following what we've been, trending with what we've been doing with subdivisions. I think the mono is just a better way to go. But I just want to advise you guys to what was out there.
Okay, comments, questions from the board members?
The neighbors notified?
Yes.
So we had.
Any,
Yes.
go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, so we did have Mr. Caldwell, that's compared to similar that we had done with the other subdivisions, and he provided them to the homeowners within the subdivision. So maybe somebody is here from the development as well.
Yeah, are there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this proposal?
Yes, this is Eric Dugas on 10 Hampton Road. And I guess just a question for Barry. As you mentioned, the vast majority of the neighborhood does have granite presently. A portion of Hampton Road does have granite existing. And so just as a resident wanting to understand, I think you mentioned there would be a benefit to asphalt. Want to understand what that benefit and better use of asphalt would be.
Yep, absolutely. So what we have with the granite, it's an expense when the town takes over the roadway for the upkeep and the installation and maintenance of the roadway. It takes a lot more of our time to address the granite roadway, the granite curbing than it would the asphalt. So the mono berm we put in is actually formed with the surface of the roadway, with the top course. So it's actually all one. So when our plows and other vehicles hit it, it doesn't move the curb. If our plows hit granite curb, we chip it, we move it, it falls apart on us. Believe it or not, I actually get calls a lot about people wanting us to come out to weed whack the cracks within the granite curb. So the overall maintenance and upkeep of granite curb is a lot more than asphalt curb.
Anyone else from the public or residents care to comment or ask a question?
Michelle Mayhew has a question.
Hey there, Michelle Mayhew, 10 Hampton Road. Hi, everybody. So I think that, in my opinion, it's the majority of the development that has the granite curbing. I haven't really seen a lot of the monolithic berm. So I'm very familiar with the reasons why you want to move this direction. I sat on the planning board and approved quite a few developments with this detail, and I understand all the pros and cons why you would do this versus granite. But I think in the context of this neighborhood, it's been almost fully developed. We're down to the last little stretch of road. And even on the road that you're talking about, there's already, you know, we were out measuring earlier, there's already almost a quarter of the road that already has the granite on it. So you're talking about either ripping that out to go back, put the berm in, or turn it from a quarter of granite into berm following that. So, you know, I'm not against the principle of it, and I totally understand the maintenance issues and all of that, but I'm talking about this in terms of context of a development that's already almost fully developed. You're talking about the last like 1/10 here we have to go, and seems like going back retroactively in this case doesn't make the most sense to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I wanted to bring it to the planning board's attention. I know it's gonna, I mean, it's something that we've been trending to do, and I'd like to do it. And I agree with you. You know, majority of the berm up there is already granite. But I just wanted to give, you know, the applicant the opportunity to understand what we could offer him, and then ultimately let the planning board decide what they wanted to do.
All right, thanks, Barry. Comments from board members?
I agree with what Michelle was saying. I was thinking the exact same thing. The neighborhood is almost complete, and I think it makes more sense to continue with the slope granite just to keep it as uniform as possible.
Gary, you're
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Yeah, I didn't realize the neighborhood was that close to completion.
John, any questions or comments?
No, I really shouldn't speak on this, having just gone through it myself, you know, so I'll keep recused.
Okay, all right. Okay.
We have one more hand up, Bob and Dee Dee.
I think they're still muted.
Sorry. Bob Peschke, 22 Stop River, in Stop River Estates and Creek Drive. They actually started the development with, it wouldn't be called monolithic, but it's blacktop. And then they switched over to granite. You don't notice it. I mean, you really have to look and be paying attention. So to increase maintenance costs for an aesthetic that most people won't, you know, pay attention to, except when it's maybe originally put in, maybe chasing, you know, paying extra money when you really don't have to and you really would not notice it. It's just, you come out here and you take a look and you'll see that unless you're really looking for it, you don't notice it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Well, personally, I feel that although I understand Bob's point and I understand Barry's point, that the residents really get to kind of cast a vote in this. And what I've heard from Michelle is that you're roughly 90% done with granite, and this would be different. So I guess I'd go along with the granite to finish it, but that's just me. All right, so we need a motion, unless we have other comments or questions from board members or the public. We need a motion to substitute monolithic berm for granite on the balance of Hampton Street. Do we have a
my
motion?
name's Jennifer Hartwell, and I'm at 19 Hampton Road. And
Sorry,
I agree
wait.
with Michelle.
Who is this again?
Jennifer Hartwell from 19 Hampton Road.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
And I agree with Michelle. The road is, you know, the neighborhood is almost done, so there's just a small area that needs to be done. And it's something that I would notice every day because I'm walking up and down the street constantly, and just I could see the difference where it would be the berm. So I think aesthetically it would look much better as the granite.
Thank you for your comment. All right, we need a motion to substitute monolithic berm for granite on Hampton Street. Do we have such a motion? You can vote against it, but we need a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the table to substitute monolithic berm for granite on Hampton Street. If you vote yes, that's what will happen. If you vote no, it'll go back to granite. All right, Mr. Weddleton, you recused yourself, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Peck,
No.
Mr. Searle,
No.
chair votes no, so we're going to finish it with granite. But thank you for the discussion and the opportunity to consider that. All right, moving along. Let's see, 7 Hill Street, request for extension of site plan and special permit 2018-03 to June 28th, 2021. Now, this is Mr. Quagliari's development of condominiums or units across the street from 4 and 6 Hill Street, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Quagliari, are you there?
I'm here. I'm requesting an extension. This was a residential development that we had worked with the neighborhood to come up with. You guys had previously approved that. I would like to say that, you know, when a developer gets into a neighborhood and works with the neighborhood and they all agree on something, you know, and then board members vote it down, it seems like that don't live anywhere near the neighborhood. It seems like they impose their will on the neighborhood. And I didn't really hear any good reasons tonight for 2 members to impose their will on this neighborhood. This is how 40Bs get shoved down the town's throats. Neighborhoods speak, board members don't react, and developers have the 40B tool. So this has been a problem at the planning board level for some time. And I'm sort of amazed tonight at what I just witnessed, that 10 citizens get together, a neighborhood gets together, agrees on something, and then for no good reason from either one of those 2 board members, they didn't come up with any reasons other than the other quadrants don't have it. It made no sense at all. But that's just my opine on that particular vote that I just watched. I don't understand why there wasn't a second on that either. But this is just a redo of the permits, and I can't build it until we resolve 6 Hill Street. It would be financially a bankruptcy situation. So I need to have these permits renewed, and hopefully you'll do that tonight and not impose your will on my project. And you know, maybe we can look at this at a later date when you resolve 6 Hill Street.
Al, one question. As I recall, well, there's an initial set of plans for 7 that you developed and we approved. And then you came back with a slightly adjusted set of plans, which you never put in front of the board. So presumably you would have to do that and just run it through. We wanted to look at drainage and septic and that type of thing, just to make sure there were no changes required as a result of the changes you made to your design.
Yeah, and I decided not to put that in front of you because of what I knew was coming down the path at 6 Hill Street. And that just needs to get resolved before I can go forward with either one of those projects. And so this is the project that was permitted, and this is the project that I would like to have the permits renewed.
Okay, understood. All right, thank you.
If you don't renew those permits, I will build commercial buildings on that 3 acres and join in with 6 Hill Street and destroy the rest of that neighborhood. That's the decision you guys can make. You just made it a second ago with, I think, a bad vote for no good reasons. And if you make another bad vote here, you will be impacting this neighborhood and against the citizens' will who live there. And I don't know if Chad Peck or Gary live anywhere near this neighborhood or if they've even driven down here. But I just find it amazing that you took that position.
All right, we're going to, thank you, Al. We're going to, Chair requests a motion to extend the site plan special permit decision 2018-03 to June 28th, 21. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, let's see. We'll take a vote. Mr. Weddleton.
Aye.
Mr. Peck.
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, Al, you got your extension.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see. Norway Farms, we've covered that. Release 5. Subdivision completion update. Frederickson Road, Old Cart Path, Fox Run, Bristol Pond Estates. Mr. McCarthy.
You're muted.
Oops, sorry about
There we go.
that. So I do have Barry with us, so we can go through. So he did. I would start with who's the first? Is it Frederickson?
Yep, Alexander Estates.
Yeah, Alexander State. So I'll start. We can start with Frederickson. So Barry, if you want to.
I'll take it away. So Mr. Bonvy contacted us last week. He finally has a paving contractor lined up to do the paving of the roadway. We went with him. His paving contractor is A1. They're going to get back to us with a date that they're going to do the paving, and it will be before July 1. While we were out there, we discussed his tree plantings. He a couple weeks before Rich and I had been out there, we had noticed a few dead trees. He's going to address that. He's going to address his asphalt swale. He needed to do a little work there. I went and took a look at the detention basins. They're severely overgrown. I think one of the things we need to do moving forward is kind of have the developers, mow, trim, get all the woody vegetation out of their detention basins, clean their catch basins before we go in for acceptance. Because if we accept them in the state they're in, then the DPW has to go and maintain them. So I'm just waiting for Ron to get back to us with a date. When the paving is done on Frederickson, someone from the DPW will be on site monitoring the work to make sure everything is done according with what we expect.
All right, thank you, Barry. Old Cart Path, Rich?
Well, there's.
Excuse me. This is Carol Thibodeau from 27 Frederickson Road. I'd like to mention that the tree work that was due to be done in our yard has not yet been done. And I'd like to know what the plan is for that, along with cutting down the trees that were supposed to be cut down.
Yeah, in addition to that, this is Thais Hickman from 31 Frederickson Road. I'd like Rich to actually pull up the landscaping plans that were approved by this town in February of 2016 by this board, because this builder has done nothing other than basically dig holes, plop the trees in the ground, and basically has left this development a complete and utter mess. In the planting notes, it indicates that mulch was supposed to be provided, that was not. We had to supply that on our own dime. The trees that are supposed, and shrubs that are supposed to be planted in the middle of the cul-de-sac, in both cul-de-sacs on Oakview and Frederickson, has not been done. So I don't know how this passes muster as far as a landscaping plan is concerned. And if a plan is approved by this board, why isn't the builder being held accountable to provide what was approved? This is, I've been here almost 3 years now, and this is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, I'm also a real estate agent. I've been to new developments. I've spoken with builders. The fact that this landscaping is not done yet and the paving is not done, we have children here that play. The paving is a disaster. It's hazardous. There's still building materials in the middle of the development. The kids are playing around. So I really like to know what is going on here and why has our builder been able to get away with this?
Walter, question for you?
John?
Question, we still have the bond money for landscaping and street trees, don't we, Held?
You
Do we,
do.
Rich?
Yes.
All right, so that hasn't been released yet.
So
Can you pull up the plans, Rich, the landscaping plans? Because I'd like this board to see what was promised to us versus what we actually have. And there's quite a few of our neighbors on the line here that can back me up here.
Yeah, so I have 14 trees that were supposed to be installed in my yard, and we are holding off on putting a well in and also irrigation system. because of those trees not being installed.
This is Walt Ryan, Chair. While Rich is pulling that up, let me just say that it's a position of the planning board that the developer is required to build the development per the plans that are approved.
Walter, Barry is only here tonight to talk about the paving, correct?
Well, there was more on his list that he gave to Rich. There was more than just paving.
Was it a final punch list for completion?
No, it was just a few ideas, a few things in the spot while I was out there.
Good, because we still have the
Get it on
bond,
everybody's
so we don't have the bond money. Before we start releasing it, then we're
Oh,
going to do a wrap
absolutely.
up of the whole neighborhood. see
Yeah,
what's
and I
missing.
believe that the planning board gave the Bondi company until June 30th to have everything done.
Is that right? Is that right,
I know
Rich?
the focus on our end of it is to get the paving done before July 1. And that's what Rich had, and that's what we're holding Mr. Bonvy to. As far as everything else, I'm not quite
The
sure where the
street trees
planning board
planted,
stands on
Barry?
that one. The day we were there, they were actually bringing in some other ones to do some planting of the street trees. Again, rest everything else.
And the street trees that were put in on the Oakview side, not the Frederickson Road side.
Yeah, so here's the landscaping plan, and this is not what is done right now.
You went back.
You just passed it.
Tonight working. So just as I'm scrolling, I can try to multitask a little bit. So Mr. Bonvy was before the planning board back last December of 2019, requesting the extension of time to completion. If you remember, his time to complete was January of this year from a previous extension. The board, he originally requested to complete it by August of 2020, and through the discussion was that it's been languishing for quite a period of time, and that the vote on the board was June 30th of 2020 as a motivator to get this subdivision completed.
So none of the street trees have been planted on the Frederickson side?
Some of them have, some of them are missing. And it's not a professional landscaping job that was done. They basically just dug holes, put the trees in, and left. They didn't do anything with the center islands that they were supposed to plant shrubs. And there's also a retention pond in the back of my home and the Abe's home, which is lot 7 and 8, that, you know, they were supposed to plant privacy trees back there because there's another development back there. As someone mentioned, they were supposed to clean out the ponds. I think there's a stone wall that's supposed to be there. So nothing on this plan has been done. All they've done is planted trees. They also left a pile of trees in our development for almost a year. They just literally took them away last year. It's just a mess here. It's a mess.
All of the trees that are shown on the private lots that are on the plan, there's a bunch on lot 1, there's a bunch on lot 3, lot 7, and the other one's probably lot 4. Are those planted?
Some of them are, but I think Carol mentioned hers are not in yet.
Yeah, so we had a total of 17 trees that were due to be planted in our yard.
Which lot are you on?
3 of them have been planted. I think we were lot 9.
Can you show that, Rich?
I think you're on the Oakview side if you pull it. Yeah, right there. So the 3 trees in the bottom left-hand corner were planted, not 6. The top left-hand corner, there are trees that are currently there. Those were supposed to be removed, and these other trees were supposed to be placed. And then the 5 trees in the middle that kind of line up with the house itself were supposed to be planted. His reasoning for not planting those was that we put a fence up. After 2 years of living at our house, we put a fence in. And what we agreed to at the meeting in December was that he would take those 5 and spread them across the lot on that same side.
I remember that.
Yep.
And so he has planted only 3 out of the 17 trees, and we have not heard a word from him since December.
Hey, Barry,
Yep.
do you think it's wise to be putting the final coat of asphalt on when all these trees have to be planted?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be, I mean, the problem is, John, he couldn't get anybody to pave. So I think we gotta take this opportunity and do it. I don't think we're talking heavy trucks coming here to plant these trees, and we're not talking, 6, 8-inch caliper stuff. But I think if we miss the window with him paving, I don't know when he's gonna come back and do it.
And maybe we can just withhold the bond money on the paving until the trees are in.
We could do that. I mean, like you said before, I mean, we're not in final punch list mode. Like I said, my focus is right now is trying to get him to at least pave the road, so we don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
The other thing is there's a path that that intersects, or that connects, I should say, the 2 cul-de-sacs, Frederickson and Oakview. That's an absolute disaster. They have done nothing with it. There were cars driving through it. I think Lynn, who's on, can talk about it a little bit more. I think she put something up so cars would not drive through there. But that's also, as I mentioned, there's lots of little kids in the neighborhood. It's dangerous. They haven't done anything with it. There's a huge trench I think they were supposed to address. So there's just a lot to be done. I just don't know why he's been.
The last lot on Oakview, I think, was just recently sold to somebody, with the one with the long driveway. I think it's lot number, I can't tell from the plan.
Very High Ridge.
The end of the cul-de-sac on
Yeah, that's lot 6, I think.
lot 6. So that's gonna, that has an enormous amount of site work, and that probably is gonna be starting construction.
This is Lynn Abe from 35 Frederickson, Lot 7. And that development of the lot on Oakview doesn't address what Ty has just brought up about the pathway that leads between the 2 cul-de-sacs. That's directly in front of our home. And I have seen regularly motorized vehicles driving between the 2 cul-de-sacs along that path. And to Ty's point, the swale on the one side of that pathway is deep. We've been told it's to be filled in somewhat. And the circle on the cul-de-sac was dressed and seeded by Heather Flynn and myself. It was not the builder.
No, that wasn't my point. My point was that lot is going to require a lot of heavy equipment and construction. And with the road paved, it gets concerning.
Totally understand, John, but it puts us in a hard place. Now, if he doesn't do it now, I don't know when he's coming back to do it.
Okay.
This is Sally. Hi, Barry. I've got, I'm not in the butter, but I am representing the townspeople because there's a lot of open space back there, and that's how we approved this whole development, Alexander Estates being a subdivision. But Barry, can you make sure, and Rich, I walked it with you, that the open space entrance over there in Oakview Trail is clearly marked? We have been waiting for that walking path to go back to those acres of land for the public. And this is the opportunity while it's getting paved, Barry. Rich knows about it. It's on the plans, and it's over by the fire hydrant. It's between, a house on Frederickson and a house on Oakview Trail. And it's not clearly marked. And that was one of the reasons why we let this go through. And is
it supposed to be marked by signage, or what is it supposed to be marked by?
Like a path, so people know, not just a little sign. Right now, it looks like you're walking on someone's private lawn, because
we had, it was a while ago now, we met with Ron out there, and we said that you need to, which we've done on some other open space ones, clear the underbrush,
Right.
and create what people would see as a pathway through the woods.
Right, and so this is the moment while it's, while you're paving it, if you put the curbing up and you put this, it's gonna look like, it's great because in the past year, Mr. Bombi has had the ability to remove all the rocks that were there. But it still looks that when I walk up there with my dog, that I'm like walking on private property, and that's not the case. It's not like a little sign saying public way, but it needs to be like a wood path, a stone path, something to let people know that this is their land. The town owns it.
The bottom line is the builder never finished this job. That's why we're having all of these discussions. There are multiple people on the phone, on the call on Frederickson and Oakview, and this landscaping plan that we're looking at right now on the screen is not done. So I don't know how he can just walk away free and clear. When I bought this house, I was under the impression that it would be, finished at some point, that the exterior, that the outside would look nice. I mean, anyone who can drive through here, it's disastrous. He just basically built.
We were told by Bonvi Company that the neighborhood was going to be a model for future builds, and that it was going to be a tree-lined street. The cul-de-sac was going to be tree-lined, and it was going to fit right in with the rest of the neighborhood, which was why we bought the house. We bought the house so that we could live on a nice, quiet cul-de-sac that was beautiful, that we could be proud of. And I'm currently not proud of the trees that are in my yard that he put there, and the lack of trees and the shape that my yard is in, because I can't put a well and an irrigation system in yet.
Rich, how much is the bond?
What's the bond amount that we're holding?
I think it's 120,000, somewhere in that range. Let's take a look and see. There's a.
So I guess the question that I'm really asking is, do we have enough bond money to finish this if we have to?
Walter,
if he doesn't?
that's something we got to be careful of. I don't know if we really want to go down that road. I'd rather work with him and try to get him to finalize this.
So would I. So would I, Barry. But I just want to know how much money we've got in the pocket in case we need it.
Rich and I have been looking around town. We have another 3 or 4 of these that we're going to have to wrap up, and it's just it's time and effort on everybody's part. I think we just got to hold his feet to his fire and let him get this done.
When is it going to be done? He's had 3 years.
Yes. He's not just holding up the town, he's holding up other people as well. And we've had in the past conversations with him, and he promises that he's going to do this and he promises that he's going to do that. We still have a punch list. We've lived at our house for 3 years and our punch list is not done.
So it's $103,000 that we need to bank.
103,000.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, Barry. We'll get the paving in, and all the rest is a lot less significant if we have to do it, which we normally don't. I mean, the neighbors have to realize if we decide to go pull his bond and not work with him and have the town finish it, that could take months and months, if not a year or so, by him contesting the pulling of the bond. So
yeah, John, you're absolutely right. Just with everything else we have going on,
work with him. And I know Ron Bonby, and I'm surprised it's got to this point. And I'm hopeful that he'll be able to work with us and finish this up now.
I mean, I think it's going to take just as long to get him to do it. So I really don't think the timing would be any different if you guys took it over.
Oh, it could be. It really could be. And it costs the town a lot of money, which means the funds from the bond go down and fight the legal expense. So it's always best to work with him. We just had Bristol Pond, which is a much larger subdivision, working with that developer, and they had a lot of complaints, as you folks do. And right now it's just about ready to be accepted. So have faith.
So, may I ask what the next step is? He has until the end of this month, which is quickly approaching.
Yeah, so we have, and that's why we're discussing tonight, the deadline was the end of June. If he doesn't perform as what Barry had mentioned, then we'll have to discuss this at the July meeting and bring him in. If, it's not, we'll have to stay on top of this with him, and there might be that hard point where we might have to pull. and then the town takes over. I think what Barry's trying to say, we're all trying to say is, I know you guys are living there and you've been living with it for way longer than you had expected to be, and it shouldn't be that long. But there's the conscientious and timeliness of different people, what they say versus they do, and we're trying to, I judge by the actions, and so he said he's going to finish it. Now the board gave him this date because he wanted to go to August. If he doesn't do it, we may have to do it. But if we can get the paving done on it, he pays for it, then at least we have more money in the bank. That's that $103,000 to get it done.
But I guess my question is, does he know what the expectation is? Because it sounded like before I posed these questions, no one was kind of aware of all the outstanding landscaping issues. So are you guys going to be following up with him on that piece in addition to the paving?
Well, the problem we have is the landscaping issues get tricky when it's on, private property. Typical subdivisions, I have to look at street trees, count those up, we're all good. When it comes to having plantings on, separate properties, that's a little tougher for us to track. I know recently we had another subdivision where we ran into the same issue, where as part of the plan, there was plantings on private properties. So it's a little gray area for the town.
Yeah, but I'm not referring to the private properties. I'm talking about the center islands in the middle of the development. The walking path that connects the two, in the back near the retention pond. That's all town property.
Yeah, that stuff we could definitely hold his feet to the fire on. And that'll be part of the final punch list stuff. Like I said, when I was out there the other day, the stuff I picked up was basically stuff that caught my eye, that I wanted to let the planning board know what was going on. Before he's done, we have to do the final punch list. So that'll be the detailed list of all the things he needs to get done.
And 9 of my 14 trees that still need to be completed or installed are town property. It's on the easement. They're the street trees, as you call them.
Yeah, so the short answer to your question, he's well aware. We've had multiple conversations about the landscaping that's not done and what he's supposed to be doing, as well as he needs to mark the trail on between the two homes to the open space, make that clear. So I could clearly state before you tonight, he should not be not aware of those issues because they've been discussed with him over multiple times. So there is no reason to say he's not aware. He knows. As a matter of fact, when we met with him on site, we discussed the fact that that's your plan. You need to complete the plan. If you don't want to complete the plan, then you're going to have to go to the planning board to request not to complete the plan. So he stated to us when we were out there, I understand that and I need to do that. So he can't say that he's not aware of his obligation.
Yeah, my concern is that he has said that before.
Right, and I know. And so we're approaching that apex point where if he doesn't we're trying to work with him to finish this thing and get it done. But if he doesn't, then we might have to go to the next step. So it's a judgment balancing act we're at right now. And I know, and you're unfortunately
in the middle.
In the middle of it.
When will that judgment be made?
Well, I think so June 30th is the deadline. So it'll be on the, more than likely, the way it's going, I'm sure it'll be on the July 14th agenda. And he'll have to come before the board because his extension runs to June 30th. So he's going to have to ask for an extension because he's not going to be able to complete it by June 30th.
And if he doesn't ask for that extension?
The town's
Then we'll ask him to come to the board meeting in July.
Yeah.
Well, we'll ask him to come to the board in July anyway to ask for the extension. and to discuss what his plans are to finish the development.
He's back. He has backed himself up to a deadline that the board back in December voted on to give some more concrete deadline for him to perform. And based on past performance, I think the board decision was to do this earlier than when he originally wanted because of lack of performance.
That's correct.
And the purpose behind that is that if we need to do something, then we have time left within this year to try to tackle some of these issues, as opposed to going with the August deadline that he originally requested.
So beyond the paving, we're looking at reconvening in July with him at this board meeting, at the planning board meeting.
Yeah, regardless.
All right, I'm sorry to have.
Walter, we lost your microphone.
Did I?
There.
On this end.
So paving in the next 2 weeks, right?
Oh boy.
They're going to notify us the day that they're going to be paving. So as soon as we hear, we'll be out there.
Terrific. Thanks. That's fantastic.
What I would hope as a courtesy, he lets you know ahead of time as residents, which would be nice.
Well, they're going to have at least a day of prep work before the actual paving. They're going to do some leveling. They're going to do some cleaning of the site. So it's probably a day of prep work before they actually get into the paving.
Okay.
All right. We will, Rich, am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. I would say to those residents that we are committed to make sure that this development gets finished by the developer. And sometimes we get developers that are very reluctant to do what they're supposed to do, and it's a struggle to get them to finish. As Barry mentioned, we've got 2 or 3 others in the town that are in the same situation, and it is always a struggle to get them to finish. Not all developers behave that way, but some of them do, and it's a pain. Really a pain for you who live there, I understand. But we're committed to get this thing finished. All right.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, move on. Rich, you want to talk about Old Cart Path?
Yeah, so I can tell you that I know Barry, I wanted to have him take a look at things, but I spoke to Todd today. So he had to switch engineering companies, engineering. He hired Dunn McKenzie Engineering to do the as-built plan for him. And originally, Andrews Engineering was the original designer, but they haven't responded to him. I know you mentioned that Dunn McKenzie has been out there to do some of the field work. He has to do survey some structures to get the elevations. So I wanted to let the board know. I did go out there with Barry. I know that as we come into the subdivision on Bob Paschke's house on the right-hand side, he needs to get in there and fill where the soil has settled on the top of it. He needs to do that. But as you know, the subdivision as approved and constructed aren't one the same right now. So the survey is to see where things are right now. And I can tell you, and we did discuss this before, the bond estimate that you have is not based on the original design. It's based on what was constructed out in the field. So this one's,
Yeah, it's another tricky one we're dealing with.
Yeah.
We got sidewalk issues, we got detention basin issues, I looked at the plans quickly yesterday afternoon. He's even supposed to put some guardrail, a few other things in there. So I think this is another one that we're gonna be chasing for a while until we actually get everything we want.
So we did approach, well, we did discuss with them previously the idea of, since there's only 3 lots, considering and make it a private way. He had spoke to the neighbors and they weren't amenable to making it a public way, which I can understand.
Rich, I was talking to somebody yesterday. They had a good idea. I know they were kind of opposed to a private way because they didn't want to have to maintain it. Could they do like a 3-house like HOA or something like that? So then they set their own, like maybe a little escrow fund, so then they would have the money to maintain it.
Yeah, no, they could.
Yeah, it was just one of those ideas. I just think, because it's so far out of spec with the plans and what was supposed to be built, it just might be a better option. But ultimately we have to figure out what they want to do.
I think what's going to happen, just from a sequence, we'll get that as-built plan, and I think we're going to have to probably invite him, Todd, and John, Norfolk County Homes, and send notice to the neighbors that live in. Todd Ruane lives in there, but notify the other 2 neighbors to come in and have a discussion. I wish I could tell you that we have subdivisions that we do have a handful, there it is, of good developers that do good subdivisions. But right now, the scale is way the other way, and we need to peck away at this. So that's not the case going forward, because this is.
All right, thanks. Let's move on to Bristol Pond.
Yeah, I reached out. I haven't heard back from them, but they do have. There is at least one street tree that didn't survive. The sidewalk did collapse a little bit where they did the trench work for the public lights. Street lights. So I'm waiting to hear back. I mean, we did make tons of progress there, but it still needs a little bit of work. Well, it does need a little bit of work to finish it. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. So I'll just keep it on the agenda as things come along. Moving to Fox Run, Pulte Homes. The camera company was out there yesterday.
Yeah, they came out. They showed up about 10 o'clock yesterday. We're thinking probably 2 or 3 days, so they finished cameraing all the lines. They actually followed the methodology that was done before and the naming structure, so we'll be able to compare everything apples to apples when we look at it.
Well, here's our cross fingers on that one.
Cross our fingers. And then, as I mentioned to John Engdahl out in the field, hopefully we can get that video and get it looked at, so maybe we can have a discussion where we are in July for a direction for that subdivision as well.
All right, thank you, Rich. Let's move on. Bond release, remaining amount, Silver Fox Run, $60,500. Talk to us about that.
So we did, as you remember, the town voted to accept Silver Fox Run at the fall town meeting, and he did complete his work. There was a patch job that was done. There was a little piece of the road that had sunk. I know DPW went out to take a look at it. Unfortunately, there was a concern relative to a conveyance of one particular property from the second family in. So town council had a question about getting the fee for the road it was a proper reservation. So we're probably going to have to revote this in the fall, or we may have to revote it as an acceptance. But he's performed his obligations on the road, so I can't see holding back money.
So your recommendation is we release the $60,500?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, any questions from the board about that proposal? All right, hearing none, then any questions from anyone else in the audience? Hearing none, then the chair will accept a motion to release the $60,500 bond for Silver Fox Run.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Weddleton.
Aye.
Mr. Peck. Excuse me.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, thank you. Let's see. Vote to designate planning board. Well, that would be Aaron, but he's not here tonight, so we probably ought to hold off on that, huh?
Yes. You do, Barry, you can sign off if you like. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Barry.
Barry.
Just to let everybody know, we'll be milling Union Street tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So stay away from the center of town.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
Yeah. So
Okay, next item is joint meeting with B1 on June 29th to discuss the town center sewer district, right? That's just a piece of information.
yeah, it's just to mark your calendar.
Need for new associate planning. Peter, this is Peter's last meeting, as I believe. And we're in need of a new associate planner. No names come to mind, so if you have someone that you'd like to recommend, please bring the name forward. DRB appointment, Arlen Lee, with term to expire on June 30th, 23. Does anyone know this gentleman? Obviously, Aaron would, but does any of the rest of us know this gentleman?
No.
Nope.
Why is it important though we have a representative on the DRB?
We actually have 2 representatives on the DRB.
There you go. Do we need 2 representatives, and who is the second representative?
No, it's not a representative, it's a member.
Member, okay, sorry.
Yeah. It's prescribed in the design review section of the zoning bylaw prescribes the membership to it. And the
Okay.
appointing authority.
Who's the second member right now?
Bob Nicodemus.
Oh, I was asking, I thought there were 2, I thought you said there were 2 planning board members.
No, there's only one. It's Aaron.
Yes.
We have 2 appointments. The historical has an appointment. And selectmen have 2 as well, right, Rich?
I could check.
I think we have 2. We make 2 appointments. Board of Selectmen make 2 and.
So this is a person that we previously appointed.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
And that person no longer wishes to participate.
No, they do.
No, he does.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to reappoint them.
Oh, easy.
His term is expiring.
Sorry.
Capture them while they still volunteer. You know how it works?
Yes.
Yeah. So
All right, so we need a motion to appoint Arlen Lee to the DRB, term to expire on June 30th, 2023. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Thank you. All right, meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to accept the meeting minutes into record from May 12th, 2020, as amended and provided to Betsy during this week.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Okay, town planner updates. It's up to you, Rich. Make it quick.
I think it's passed.
Good.
Time for everybody.
Good.
So you're, do I understand you say you're passing on that? Is that the?
Yeah, I'm passing.
Okay, I got it. All right.
Second.
All right. Are there any other business items we need to discuss this evening?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Just one, you guys did not close the zoning hearing.
Oh, dear. Okay, we need to do that. We need a motion to close the public hearing on the citizen petition, correct? Betsy, it's a citizen.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
All right, so I need a motion to close the public hearing on the citizen petition for the zoning change.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Any other business or administrative issues?
We just want to finish up before the next day.
Yeah, well, you have to do it before midnight, that's for sure, because we're not posted for the next day.
Yeah.
All right, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 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 right.
One
Have a good
meeting.
evening, folks. What's
You
left
as
of
well.
it.
Good night.
Good
Enjoy
night,
your evening.
everybody.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Rich.